Hello guys, welcome to Saiyan What Ifs. So in this video, we will see, what if Goku defeated Beerus and took his throne? If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1. Ascension. The mountaintop shuddered under their feet, particles of rock levitating as two auras, one purple, one golden, clashed in the stratosphere. Each impact sent shockwaves rippling through the atmosphere, dispersing clouds and causing the horizon to tremble. Far below, oceans churned, tectonic plates shifted, and all of Earth held its collective breath. Son Goku narrowed his eyes, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth as he faced Beerus the Destroyer. The feline deity hovered before him, arms crossed, his slender form belying the unfathomable power it contained. Despite the Super Saiyan God transformation coursing through Goku's veins, divine ki replacing mortal energy, he found himself outmatched by the God of Destruction's casual precision. Is this truly all the potential Earth can offer? Beerus yawned, flicking his wrist to deflect Goku's latest barrage. Perhaps I was mistaken about this planet. Perhaps it deserves. I'm not finished yet, Goku interrupted, his voice carrying the unusual weight of determination without its characteristic playfulness. Something had shifted in the Saiyan warrior during this battle, a crystallization of purpose. Say beyond the simple joy of fighting a strong opponent. The God of Destruction's ears twitched with mild interest. Oh, your divine form is fading, Saiyan. In moments, you'll revert to a mortal. A strong mortal, but a mortal nonetheless. Goku felt it too. The borrowed power of 5 Saiyans channeled into his form was dissipating. Red sparks flickered through his aura as the transformation became unstable. But instead of panic, a strange clarity settled over his consciousness. Time seemed to slow as Goku closed his eyes, not in defeat, but in profound concentration. The universe had always spoken to him through combat. Not in words, but in rhythms, patterns, and possibilities. Where scholars studied physics through equations, Goku understood reality through his body. And now, with divine ki flowing through his cells, even as it faded, he glimpsed something fundamental about destruction itself. Interesting, Whis murmured from his observation point several miles away, staff tilted toward the confrontation. He's not giving up, he's listening. Within Goku's mind, a revelation unfolded. Destruction wasn't an endpoint but a transition, energy neither created nor destroyed, merely transformed. The power Beerus wielded wasn't fundamentally different from the energy Goku had manipulated his entire life, it simply existed at a higher octave of reality. His eyes snapped open. I see it now, Goku whispered, his aura stabilizing despite the divine ki continuing to drain. It's not about holding onto the God form. It's about understanding what it showed me. Beerus's expression sharpened with sudden attentiveness. What are you? The Saiyan's stance shifted. Not into any recognizable martial arts position but something entirely new, fingers splayed as though feeling currents in the air. The golden-red glow surrounding him dimmed, but instead of fading completely, it condensed, tracing intricate patterns across his skin like luminous circuitry. Impossible, Beerus hissed, launching forward with sudden urgency. Goku didn't evade. Instead, as the destroyer's fist connected with his chest, he inhaled sharply, not in pain, but as though drawing something from the point of contact. The impact reverberated, but instead of flying backward, Goku remained rooted in place, his hands coming up to clasp Beerus's extended arm. You're absorbing destruction energy, Beerus stated, disbelief coloring his voice. No mortal has ever. I'm not absorbing it, Goku corrected, his voice eerily calm as purple energy spiraled up his arms. I'm completing its cycle. With a fluid motion that seemed to bend space itself, Goku redirected the destruction energy not back at Beerus, but into a complex spiral pattern that encircled them both. The energy didn't dissipate, it transformed, ing from violet to a blue-white luminescence that hummed with harmonic resonance. For the first time in millennia, Beerus felt something approaching uncertainty. This technique, it shouldn't be possible for someone who only glimpsed godhood. Goku's expression remained focused, sweat beading on his forehead as he maintained the energy pattern. I've never been good at what's possible or impossible. I just do what feels right. The transformed energy contracted suddenly, compressing into a singular point between them before expanding in a silent explosion of light. When it cleared, both figures remained, but their positions had reversed, with Goku's palm now pressed against Beerus's chest. "I call it destruction completion," Goku said quietly. "Taking apart your energy wasn't working. So I completed its purpose instead." Beerus looked down at where Goku's hand connected to his chest, feeling his own destruction energy circulating back through his body, but fundamentally altered, as it had passed through a cosmic filter and emerged as something both familiar and foreign. "In all my existence," the destroyer said slowly, "no one has ever turned my own essence back upon itself." Without warning, Beerus struck with his full might, a blur of movement culminating in a strike that would shatter planets. Goku met it not with a counter blow but with an open palm that seemed to fold around the attack like water embracing a stone. Another flash, and Beerus found himself suspended momentarily, his own kinetic force flowing through and around Goku's form before returning to him in a concentrated wave. The god of destruction was flung backward, crashing through 3 mountain peaks before regaining control. When he returned, his typically bored expression had vanished, replaced by something approaching genuine interest. "Again," Beerus demanded, launching a barrage of destruction spheres. Goku didn't dodge. He stepped into the assault, his movements fluid and precise as he traced patterns through the oncoming energy. Each purple sphere he touched transformed, their trajectories bending into orbital patterns around his body before converging into a concentrated beam. He directed skyward, where it detonated harmlessly in the upper atmosphere, aurora-like curtains of light cascading across the heavens. Below, the Z-fighters watched in stunned silence. What are we seeing?" Krillin whispered, his voice barely audible over the distant thunder of divine combat. Piccolo's eyes narrowed, his Namekian senses perceiving energetic subtleties invisible to the others. "Goku isn't fighting against Beerus's power anymore. He's harmonizing with it, redirecting it through himself without being destroyed." "Is that even possible?" Gohan asked, adjusting his GLASSES as though they might help him comprehend the incomprehensible. Vegeta said nothing, his clenched fists trembling at his sides. The Prince of all Saiyans had long ago accepted Kakarot's superior strength. But this transcended mere power levels. This was something fundamental about reality that his rival had grasped through sheer intuition. High above, the battle intensified. Beerus abandoned energy attacks, engaging Goku in hand-to-hand combat at speeds that rendered them invisible to mortal perception. Yet with each exchange, the pattern repeated. Goku absorbed the destructive essence of each strike, completed its cycle, and returned it in transformed states that increasingly tested the destroyer's defenses. "You've glimpsed something profound," Beerus acknowledged during a momentary pause, genuine respect entering his voice. "But glimpsing isn't mastery, Saiyan. And your body remains mortal. How long can you channel divine energy before it consumes you?" As if on cue, thin rivulets of blood began seeping from Goku's eyes and ears, his mortal form straining under the pressure of channeling godly power without the protection of the Super Saiyan God transformation. Yet Goku smiled, that familiar expression that had preceded so many of his greatest breakthroughs. "I don't need to last forever. Just long enough." "Long enough for what?" Beerus demanded. Rather than answering verbally, Goku closed his eyes once more. The bleeding stopped as he exhaled deeply, his aura shifting from golden to a pristine silver white. When his eyes reopened, they reflected the same metallic sheen. "For this," Goku said simply. What followed wasn't a technique or a transformation in the traditional sense. Instead, Goku's consciousness expanded outward, touching, momentarily, the underlying fabric of reality that even gods perceived only dimly. In that expansion, he located the exact frequency of Beerus's destruction energy, the precise resonance that allowed it to unmake matter and energy. And then, with the precision of a master musician finding a perfect counterpoint, Goku adjusted his own key to match it, not in opposition, but in harmony. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The atmosphere between them shimmered as two divine energies, one developed over millions of years, the other newly awakened, recognized each other as complementary forces. Beerus's eyes widened in genuine shock as he felt his connection to destruction energy momentarily matched, then mirrored by the Saiyan before him. "Impossible," The destroyer whispered for the second time that day, a word that had rarely passed his lips in millions of years. Goku didn't waste the opening. With movements that seemed to flow through dimensions rather than merely physical space, he closed the distance between them. His palm struck Beerus's chest not with force but with perfect resonance, transferring energy at a quantum level rather than through kinetic impact. The god of destruction staggered backward, Hi's body momentarily outlined in silver as Goku's countering frequency disrupted his control over destruction energy. For a breathless moment, the balance of power between them shifted, tipping toward T. He mortal-born Saiyan who had done the unthinkable, matched a destroyer at his own fundamental power. Beerus recovered quickly, his millennia of experience reasserting control. But the momentary vulnerability had been real, and both combatants knew it. Enough. The command came not from either fighter but from Whis, who suddenly stood between them, his staff creating a barrier of calm in the chaotic energies. This battle has revealed what it needed to reveal. Goku exhaled, the silver light fading from his eyes as he allowed his borrowed understanding of destruction energy to dissipate. His body immediately protested, muscles spasming as the aftereffects of channeling divine power without proper conditioning racked his form. What did it reveal? Goku managed between labored breaths. Whis and Beerus exchanged a long look, communication passing between them at levels beyond verbal expression. Finally, the destroyer gave a slight nod. It revealed, Beerus said quietly, the identity of my successor. The ceremony of succession wasn't planned or expected. Indeed, most gods in Universe 7 didn't even know such a protocol existed. Gods of destruction weren't supposed to be defeated. They typically served until they grew weary of existence and relinquished their positions voluntarily, an event that might occur once in several billion years. Yet here they stood on the sacred world of the Kais, Goku, Beerus, Whis, and the diminutive Supreme Kai, as ancient glyphs were inscribed in a circle around them, burning with divine fire that consumed no fuel and cast no heat. This is unnecessary, Goku protested for the third time, his expression uncharacteristically serious. I don't want to be a destroyer. I want to protect Earth, train, and get stronger. The position isn't offered, Saiyan. It's mandated, Beerus replied, his tone holding none of its usual sarcasm. When a god of destruction is definitively defeated by a mortal, cosmic law requires transition. My authority is already diminishing. Can you not feel it? Goku hesitated. Since their battle 3 days prior, something had indeed changed. The techniques he'd glimpsed during their fight, that moment of perfect, harmonic understanding of destruction energy, remained tantalizingly present at the edges of his consciousness, neither fully grasped nor entirely forgotten. There must be another way, the Saiyan insisted. What about my family? My responsibilities to Earth? The Supreme Kai cleared his throat nervously. Actually, Son Goku, gods of destruction maintain considerable autonomy in how they conduct their duties. You would not be required to, destroy anything you don't wish to. That's not entirely accurate, Whis interjected, his perpetually pleasant expression unchanged. A destroyer must maintain cosmic balance. Selective destruction is required to prevent entropy collapse. However, he added, noting Goku's deepening frown, the methods and frequency remain largely at the destroyer's discretion. Goku paced the circle, the celestial symbols rippling like water as he moved across them. And if I refuse, Universe 7's destruction energy would become unstable, Beerus stated flatly. Without a proper vessel to channel and direct it, the power would disperse chaotically. Planets would disintegrate randomly, stars would supernova prematurely. Eventually, the fabric of our universe would unravel. You're saying I don't have a choice. You always have a choice, Goku, Whis corrected gently. But choices have consequences, for yourself and others. The Saiyan stopped pacing, his gaze drifting upward to where Universe 7 spread across the heavens in glittering constellations. Somewhere among those countless stars was Earth, his adopted home, where Chi-Chi, Gohan, Goten, and all his friends continued their lives. Unaware that cosmic bureaucracy was about to separate them from their greatest protector. If I accept this position, Goku said slowly, I want conditions. Beerus barked a short laugh. Conditions? You presume to negotiate with cosmic law. I'm not negotiating with the law. I'm negotiating with you too, Goku replied, nodding toward Beerus and Whis. You're the ones enforcing it. Angel and Destroyer exchanged another silent communication before Whis gestured for Goku to continue. First, I want to maintain my connection to Earth. I need to visit my family, explain what's happened. Reasonable, if infrequent, Whis conceded. Second, I want to keep training. Not just in destruction techniques, but in everything. I don't want to get lazy or bored like. Goku hesitated, glancing at Beerus. Like me, the feline god supplied dryly. An unfair characterization. I've merely perfected the balance between exertion and relaxation over millennia. Third, Goku continued, ignoring the interruption, I want to understand exactly what this job involves. Not just the destruction part, but everything, the rules, the purpose, all of it. I won't destro. Why anything without knowing why it needs destroying? The Supreme Kai made a small, distressed sound. That's not typically how gods of destruction operate. Cosmic intuition generally guides. I'll teach him. Beerus interrupted unexpectedly. At the surprised looks from the others, he shrugged. What? If I'm to be replaced, I'd prefer my successor not be a complete embarrassment to the position. The other destroyers would never let me hear the end of it. Whis tapped his staff once on the sacred ground, its crystalline orb pulsing with soft light. The conditions are noted and accepted, ins. So far as they do not contradict the fundamental requirements of the position. Is there anything else, Son Goku, before we proceed? The Saiyan took a deep breath, looking once more at the universe spree. At above them, at all he was accepting responsibility for, willingly or not. Yeah, one more thing. When this is done, I want pudding. Lots of pudding. For a moment, silence reigned in the sacred circle. Then Beerus's lips quirked upward in the barest suggestion of a smile. Perhaps you'll make a suitable destroyer after all. The ceremony itself was both simpler and more profound than Goku expected. No lengthy incantations, no complex rituals, just Goku and Beerus standing face to face in the center of the glowing circle while Whis positioned his staff between them. Place your hand on the orb, the angel instructed. When both Saiyan and Destroyer complied, the crystal flared with blinding intensity. Goku felt a searing connection form, not just to Beerus, but to something vast and ancient that existed beyond individual identity. Destruction energy in its purest form, the fundamental cosmic force that prevented universal stagnation by ensuring that nothing lasted forever. Through that sea, connection flowed knowledge, not in organized, coherent packets, but in overwhelming waves that threatened to drown Goku's consciousness. He glimpsed civilizations rising and falling across billions of years. Planets forming and disintegrating, stars being born and dying. He saw Beerus, younger and more volatile, learning to channel destruction through millennia of trial and error. He perceived the delicate balance between creation and destruction that allowed Universe 7 to persist in dynamic equilibrium. Most disorienting of all, he felt himself changing, his very cellular structure being rerit. Tend to accommodate energies no mortal form could naturally contain. It wasn't painful, exactly, but the sensation of becoming something fundamentally different from what he had been was profoundly unsettling. When the light finally faded, Goku staggered backward, blinking spots from his vision. His body felt simultaneously lighter and denser, as though its relationship with gravity had been fundamentally altered. It is done, Whis announced, his voice carrying a formality rarely heard from the usually casual angel. Universe 7 recognizes Son Goku as its god of destruction. Beerus swayed slightly, steadying himself against Whis' staff. The former destroyer looked subtly different, his purple skin a shade paler, the aura of menace that had constantly surrounded him diminished but not entirely absent. How do you feel? The Supreme Kai ventured, addressing Goku with a new undertone of deference. Goku flexed his fingers, watching with fascination as tiny motes of purple energy danced between them, destruction power responding to his will without conscious effort. Hungry, he answered honestly. Then, more thoughtfully, and connected. Like I can feel everything in the universe, dying. That sensation will become more manageable with time, Beerus assured him. The constant awareness of entropy is an acquired taste. Whis tapped his staff, dispelling the ceremonial circle. Lord Goku. Just Goku. The Saiyan interrupted firmly. Very well, Goku. As your attendant, I must inform you that there are certain immediate responsibilities that require your attention. Formal introduction to the other deities. Establishment of your divine residence, instruction in basic destruction protocols. Wait, Goku held up a hand, a sudden realization striking him. You're my attendant now. What about Beerus? Former destroyers typically enter a period of retirement and observation, Whis explained. Lord Beerus will retain certain divine privileges and a portion of his power, his official duties, and my service, now transfer to you. Beerus stretched languorously. Don't look so concerned, Saiyan. I've earned a vacation. Several million years of destroying can wear on one's patience. He paused, then added more seriously. Besides, someone needs to ensure you don't completely rewrite the cosmic order while figuring out your new position. So, you're sticking around. Consider me a consultant. Beerus replied with a dismissive wave. Now, about that pudding you mentioned. Explaining his new divine status to his family proved every bit as difficult as Goku had anticipated. They sat around the kitchen table in the modest Sun household, Chi-Chi, Gohan, Goten, and himself, while he struggled to articulate the cosmic promotion he neither sought nor desired. Let me make sure I understand, Chi-Chi said, her voice dangerously calm. You fought the cat god, accidentally won, and now you have to take his job destroying planets. And this job means you'll be living, where exactly? It's not just destroying planets, Goku clarified quickly. It's maintaining cosmic balance, and I'll be living in Beerus's temple. I mean, my temple now, I guess, but I can visit. Whis says transportation between realms is one of my new abilities, once I learn to control it. Dad, Gohan interjected, his scholarly mind already analyzing the implications. What about the Dragon Balls? If there's an emergency, will we still be able to contact you? Goku ran a hand through his perpetually unruly hair. I think so. Whis says I'll be able to sense major disruptions in the universe. Especially on planets I have connections to. And Earth is definitely at the top of that list. Goten, youngest and most adaptable of the Sun family, brightened. Does this mean you have cool new powers, Dad? Can you show us? Not in the house. Chi-Chi snapped before Goku could respond. The last thing we need is destruction energy, taking out the kitchen I just remodeled. An uncomfortable silence settled over the table. Despite his best efforts to explain, Goku could see the hurt and confusion in his family's eyes. To them, this wasn't just a new job or training opportunity, it was another absence. Another example of cosmic responsibilities pulling him away from the domestic life they'd repeatedly tried to build together. I didn't ask for this, Goku said quietly. If there was any other way, there's always another way, for everyone else, Chi-Chi replied, her voice catching. For Vegeta, for Piccolo, for Krillin. Somehow they managed to balance their responsibilities. But you're always the one who has to save everyone, who has to leave. First Namek, then Cell, now this. Chi-Chi, that's not fair, Gohan protested gently. Dad doesn't. It's okay, Gohan, Goku interrupted, reaching across the table to take his wife's hand. She's right. I haven't always put family first. But this time is different. I'm not leaving to train or fight some distant enemy. This position, it gives me authority. Maybe for once, I can use that authority to protect what matters without having to sacrifice everything else. Chi-Chi didn't pull her hand away, but her expression remained skeptical. And how exactly does being God of destruction help you be more present for your family? Goku grinned suddenly. Well, for one thing, nobody can tell me what to do anymore. Not even other gods. If I want to prioritize Earth, or spend time here, or bring you all to visit my temple, who's going to stop me? The cosmic laws you mentioned, Gohan suggested with a raised eyebrow. Details, Goku dismissed with a wave. The point is, I'm figuring this out. And I promise, this won't be like before. Being God of destruction might change my responsibilities, but it doesn't change what's important to me. Whether his family believed him remained uncertain, but the conversation gradually shifted to practical matters, how often he could visit, whether the boys could train with him in his temple. Whether divine currency was exchangeable for Chi-Chi's preferred Earth currency, it wasn't, but Goku wisely kept that detail to himself for the moment. Later, as evening settled over Mount Paozu, Goku stood alone outside, gazing up at stars that now seemed closer, more immediate, as though he could reach out and touch any of them at will. Having second thoughts, the voice came from behind him, where Whis had appeared silently. Not second thoughts, Goku replied without turning. Just realizing how much this changes things. More than you currently understand, the angel agreed. The role reshapes not just your power, but your perspective. Given enough time, even the most grounded destroyer begins to view mortal concerns differently. Goku frowned. That won't happen to me. It happens to everyone. Goku, the question isn't whether you'll change, but how you'll direct that change. Whis stepped beside him, his staff glowing softly in the gathering darkness. Which reminds me, there's a matter requiring your attention. An unstable planet in the Andromeda sector. Its core has become dangerously volatile, and I'm supposed to destroy it. That would be the traditional approach, yes. Goku turned to face his attendant fully. Are there people living on this planet? Approximately 3 billion sentient beings, yes. Quite advanced civilization. Unfortunately, they've mismanaged their planet's resources rather dramatically. Then destruction isn't an option, Goku stated flatly. There has to be another way. Whis' expression remained neutral, but something like approval flickered in his eyes. As I said, how you direct the change is what matters. If you have an alternative solution, I'm required to facilitate it. Lord Goku. The title still felt wrong, but Goku let it pass. Then let's go. I want to see this planet for myself before making any decisions. As you wish. Whis extended his staff. Shall we inform your family of your departure? Goku looked back at the small house, its windows warm with light against the mountain darkness. Yeah, this is exactly the kind of thing I promised would be different. No more disappearing without explanation. 10 minutes and several tearful promises to return soon later. Goku placed his hand on Whis' shoulder. The angel tapped his staff once, and reality bent around them, the familiar land. Scape of Earth dissolving into streams of light as they embarked on Goku's first official journey as God of Destruction. He was leaving home again, but this time, he was determined to prove it wasn't goodbye. Planet Mitsuhama hung in space like a jewel with a crack running through its center, literally. From orbit, the fissure in its mantle was visible as a jagged line cutting across one hemisphere, glowing red-hot with exposed magma. Periodically, massive eruptions would send plumes of debris into the upper atmosphere, where they merged with a thickening blanket of pollutants already choking the world. How long does it have? Goku asked, hovering beside Whis in the vacuum of space, his divine form unaffected by the absence of atmosphere. Approximately 72 hours before total collapse, Whis replied. When it goes, the resulting explosion will destabilize 3 neighboring systems and create an asteroid field that will threaten 7 inhabited worlds over the next century. Goku frowned. And you're sure nothing can stop the collapse? The conventional solution is to destroy it cleanly before it self-destructs chaotically, Whis explained. Hence why this situation has been brought to the destroyer's attention. 3 billion people, Whis. Indeed, a regrettable but necessary sacrifice to preserve the greater cosmic balance. Goku's frown deepened as he extended his senses toward the planet, feeling the chaotic energies roiling beneath its surface. The core was indeed destabilizing rapidly, wild fluctuations in its magnetic field creating cascading failures throughout the planet's structure. But he could feel something else too, the collective life force of billions of beings going about their lives, unaware that their world had been marked for divine termination. Their energy signatures flickered like countless candles, each representing dreams, relationships, hopes, fears, all the things that made life valuable beyond mere cosmic calculation. Take me down there, Goku decided. I need to see for myself. Whis raised an eyebrow. The atmosphere is highly toxic. Even with your divine constitution, it would be uncomfortable. I've been uncomfortable before. The angel inclined his head slightly. As you wish. They materialized in what appeared to be a major urban center, a sprawling metropolis of crystalline towers and elevated roadways. Despite the planetary crisis, the city hummed with activity, its inhabitants continuing their daily routines amid increasingly ominous environmental signs. The sky above was a sickly orange-brown, toxic cloud, illuminated from within by lightning and the glow of the widening planetary fissure visible on the horizon. The inhabitants themselves were humanoid but distinctly alien, tall, thin beings with iridescent skin and 4 arms. Moving with quick, precise movements that suggested a society valuing efficiency above all. None seemed to notice the sudden appearance of a destroyer god and his angel attendant in their midst. A perception filter automatically engaging around divine beings. They can't see us? Goku asked, watching a group of children hurry past, their school uniforms immaculate despite the ash drifting from the sky. They can, if you wish it, Whis replied. Divine presence is typically concealed to prevent unnecessary panic or worship, but as destroyer, you may reveal yourself at your discretion. Goku shook his head. Not yet. First I want to understand what's happening here. Why is their planet falling apart? They spent the next hour observing the civilization, Whis provided. Historical context while Goku absorbed the visual evidence around them. The Mitsuhama, it seemed, had built their advanced society through aggressive exploitation of their planet's core energy. I've taps driven deep into the mantle extracted power to fuel their technological development, a process that had gradually destabilized the planetary core beyond recovery. They did this to themselves. Goku murmured as they stood before a massive energy collection facility, where pulsing conduits channeled raw power from the planet's heart. Most civilizations do, in one form or another, Whis noted dispassionately. It's a common endpoint in technological development, the failure to recognize planetary limits until they're exceeded. But they must know what's happening now. Why aren't they evacuating? I don't sense any ships leaving the planet. That's where governance becomes relevant. Whis directed Goku's attention to a towering spire in the city center. The ruling council has classified information about the planet's condition. Most citizens believe they're experiencing a temporary environmental disruption that will soon be controlled. Goku's expression hardened. They're lying to their people. They believe mass panic would be more destructive than managed ignorance. What they believe doesn't matter if everyone dies in 3 days. Without waiting for Whis' response, Goku strode toward the central spire, his divine aura flickering visible for brief moments as his control wavered with his rising emotions. The angel followed at a leisurely pace, his expression betraying nothing of his thoughts regarding his new master's unconventional approach. The ruling council of Mitsuhama was in session when Goku and Whis arrived in their sealed chamber, 12 elderly members of the species debating evacuation priorities for their own families and selected elites. The conversation halted abruptly as Goku deliberately dropped the perception filter, becoming visible to the stunned counselors. Your planet is dying, Goku announced without preamble. You know it, I know it, but your people don't know it, and that ends now. One of the counselors recovered from the shock of the intrusion enough to activate a security panel. Alarms blared momentarily before Whis tapped his staff once, silencing them. What are you? Another counselor managed, rising shakily from her seat. I'm the god of destruction for this universe, Goku replied, the words still feeling foreign on his tongue. Normally, I'd be here to destroy your planet before it explodes on its own. But I think your people deserve a chance to save themselves. The council chamber erupted in a mixture of terrified whispers and indignant protests. Goku let them continue for several moments before raising a hand. A flicker of destruction energy dancing between his fingers, enough to command immediate silence. You have 72 hours before your planet tears itself apart, he continued. That's enough time to evacuate a significant portion of your population if you start now. Every moment you waste arguing is more lives lost. The head counselor, distinguished by an ornate collar, stepped forward cautiously. Even if what you say is true, and our data suggests it is, we lack sufficient evacuation capacity. Our space fleet can accommodate perhaps 2 million citizens at most. The rest would die anyway. A different counselor interjected harshly. Better to save those most valuable to our future, scientists, cultural leaders, genetic diversity samples. Goku's expression darkened. That's your solution. Choose who lives based on their value. What gives you that right? Practicality gives us that right, the head counselor replied, gaining confidence. If you truly are a god as you claim, surely you understand that difficult choices must. The rest of his sentence disappeared in a gasp as Goku vanished and reappeared directly before him, moving faster than a being on Mitsuhama had ever witnessed. I understand more than you think, Goku said quietly. I understand that your energy extraction facilities caused this crisis. I understand that you've hid the truth from your people while arranging your own escape. And I understand that sometimes, difficult problems need creative solutions. He turned to Whis. Can you pull up a map of this star system? With a graceful gesture, the angel conjured a three-dimensional hologram of the Mitsuhama system, the dying planet at its center, 2 uninhabited moons, and several neighboring worlds. This planet, Goku said, pointing to a large gas giant 2 positions out from Mitsuhama, does it have any populated moons or stations? None, Whis confirmed. Its atmosphere is rich in helium-3 and various noble gases, but its gravity makes it unsuitable for colonization with current Mitsuhaman technology. Goku studied the hologram thoughtfully. And what would happen if it wasn't there anymore? The NCIL members exchanged confused glances while Whis' eyebrows rose fractionally. Are you proposing to destroy Goran Prime instead of Mitsuhama? The angel asked. An interesting alternative, though. It would create its own set of gravitational disturbances. Not destroy, Goku corrected. Transform. Without further explanation, he placed 2 fingers to his forehead, focusing on the gas giant's coordinates. And vanished, leaving Whis alone with the bewildered council. The angel offered them a pleasant smile. I suggest you begin evacuation preparations regardless. My lord's solutions tend to be unpredictable. Goran Prime was a massive ball of swirling gases, its upper atmosphere a mesmerizing ballet of amber and sapphire currents flowing around massive storm systems. Goku hovered at its outer edge, feeling the immense gravitational pull of the giant world as he extended his senses inward, probing its composition all the way to its solid core. What he was contemplating had never been attempted by a god of destruction, at least not according to the fragmented cosmic knowledge that had transferred to him during the succession ceremony. Destruction was meant to eliminate, to remove, excess or corruption from the universe. What Goku envisioned was more complex. Selective destruction, removing specific elements while preserving and transforming others. Let's see if this works, he murmured to himself, drawing upon his new divine energy. Unlike his previous uses of ki, destruction energy responded differently, less an extension of his life force than a primal cosmic power channeled through his consciousness. It gathered around his hands in dancing violet flames, responding to his intent rather than specific technique. Goku closed his eyes, visualizing exactly what he wanted to accomplish. Then, with a sharp exhalation, he extended both hands toward the gas giant and released the energy, not in a destructive blast, but in a precisely modulated wave that penetrated the place. Ainet's gaseous layers like a divine scalpel. The effect was not immediately visible from the outside, but Goku could feel the changes rippling through Goran Prime's structure, molecular bonds breaking and reforming. Elements separating and recombining according to the pattern he'd visualized. It was exhausting work, requiring a level of concentration he'd rarely needed in conventional battle, but gradually. The gas giant began to change. Its swirling storms calmed, its colors shifted, and its radius contracted as denser materials precipitated toward its core while lighter elements formed a new, stable atmosphere. Most crucially, its mass redistributed, creating a gravitational field much closer to Mitsuhama's own. When Whis appeared beside him some time later, Goku was drenched in sweat despite the vacuum of space. His divine aura flickering with exertion. Fascinating approach, the angel commented, studying the transformed planet. Rather than destroying, you've accelerated several billion years of natural planetary evolution in a matter of hours. Goran Prime is now, by all measurements, a habitable world. Goku lowered his hands, the last wisps of destruction energy dissipating. Will it work? Can the Mitsuhama relocate here? The atmospheric composition is suitable, the gravity approximately 1.2 times their homeworlds, manageable with minor biological adjustments over time. Whis' staff projected detailed atmospheric and geological readings. Surface temperature is currently higher than optimal but cooling rapidly as the transformation stabilizes. Yes, I believe it'll serve quite adequately as a refugee world. Goku exhaled in relief. Good, because I don't think I could do that again anytime soon. Indeed, you've expended a significant portion of your divine energy reserves. Most interesting, Whis added with genuine curiosity, that you instinctively found a way to use destruction power for creation. The other destroyers will find this unorthodox. Is it against the rules? Not explicitly. The cosmic directive simply requires balance, that what must end, ends. How you interpret and implement that directive has always been somewhat flexible. Whis studied his new charge thoughtfully. Though I suspect your interpretation may prove more flexible than most. Goku grinned tiredly. As long as it works. Now we just need to convince the council to evacuate everyone to the new planet. Not just their chosen few. About that, Whis said, his tone suddenly casual, there have been some developments during your absence. Before Goku could question him further, the angel transported them back to Mitsuhama, not to the council chamber, but to what appeared to be a massive public plaza now filled with thousands of citizens, all staring upward at giant screens displaying. Is that me? Goku asked incredulously, watching footage of himself transforming Goran Prime. The council found your departure quite convenient for solving their political dilemma, Whis explained. Rather than accept responsibility for hiding the planetary crisis, they've presented you as a divine savior who appeared at their request. The footage is being broadcast Lane-wide as proof that evacuation is both necessary and possible. Goku watched as the vast crowd responded to the images with something between fear, awe, and hope, parents clutching children, strangers embracing. Officials directing orderly movement toward what appeared to be transportation hubs. They're actually evacuating everyone, he realized. Indeed, self-preservation is a powerful motivator, even for corrupt officials. Once the population knew both about the crisis and the solution, maintaining an elitist evacuation plan became politically untenable. A small group of council members approached cautiously, led by the head counselor who now wore an expression of obsequious gratitude entirely absent from their previous meeting. Divine One, he began with an elaborate bow, we cannot sufficiently express our. Save it, Goku interrupted. Just get your people to safety. You have less than 48 hours now. The counselor's expression faltered momentarily before he recovered. Of course, the evacuation proceeds at maximum capacity. Our engineers have reconfigured all available spacecraft for passenger transport, and the first vessels are already approaching the new world, which the public has named Divine Refuge, in your honor. Goku winced slightly at the name but let it pass. What about food, supplies, shelter? They'll need more than just transportation. Quote, construction drones have been deployed ahead of the main evacuation, a different counselor explained, evidently the logistics specialist. Basic infrastructure should be in place for the first wave of refugees. It will be challenging, but survivable. Good. Goku nodded firmly. That's all that matters. He stepped back, ready to depart, when a small Mitsuhaman child broke away from the crowd and approached him directly. A girl perhaps equivalent to 10 Earth years, her iridescent skin paler than the adults, her forearms thin and delicate. Are you really a god? She asked without preamble, displaying none of the fear or deference shown by the adults. Goku crouched to her level, his serious expression softening. I have god-like powers, he answered honestly. But until recently, I was just a regular person who tried his best to protect others. The child considered this thoughtfully. Our teachers say gods don't care about ordinary people. They only care about cosmic balance. Some gods, maybe. Goku replied with a small smile. But I'm still learning this job. I think maybe cosmic balance includes making sure good people have a chance to live their lives. The girl nodded as though this confirmed a personal theory, then reached into a pocket with one of her lower arms, extracting a small, crystalline flower, apparently artificial, but carefully crafted. For luck, she said, offering it to him. My mother says we'll need it on our new home. Goku accepted the gift with appropriate solemnity. Thank you. But you know what's better than luck? Working together. That's how problems get solved. Not by one person or God, but by everyone doing their part. A call from the crowd drew the child back to her family, leaving Goku holding the delicate crystal blossom, his first offering as a deity. Though certainly not in the formal manner Whis would have preferred. Quite the unorthodox first official act, the angel observed as they prepared to depart. Transforming a planet rather than destroying one. Creating a refugee world rather than eliminating a doomed one. The Grand Minister will be intrigued by your approach. Goku straightened, tucking the crystal flower carefully inside his GI. Will I get in trouble? That remains to be seen. The other divine entities have certain expectations about how a destroyer should behave. And transforming planets doesn't fit those expectations. Let's just say you've set a rather unexpected precedent, Whis replied diplomatically. Speaking of which, we have another matter requiring our attention. A certain Saiyan from Universe 6 has been making rather insistent inquiries about you. Goku blinked in surprise. Universe 6? You mean Kaba? No, a female Saiyan named Caulifla. Apparently, news of a Saiyan ascend to godhood has traveled between universes more quickly than anticipated. Caulifla, Goku repeated, remembering the brash, talented fighter he'd briefly encountered during the Tournament of Power. What does she want? Whis' expression remained neutral, but a hint of amusement colored his voice. According to my sister Vados, and I quote, to challenge the so-called Saiyan God and prove his unworthiness. It seems your reputation precedes you. Despite his exhaustion from the planetary transformation, Goku felt a familiar spark of excitement at the prospect of a challenging fight. Some things, it seemed, didn't change even with divine ascension. Well, we shouldn't keep her waiting, he said with a grin. After all, cosmic balance probably includes keeping promises to fellow Saiyans, right? I'm quite certain it doesn't. Whis sighed, but raised his staff nonetheless. However, as your attendant, I am obligated to facilitate your unorthodox interpretation of your duties. As they departed Mitsuhama, leaving behind a civilization in transit, saved not by traditional destruction but by transformation, Goku couldn't help but wonder what other aspects of his new role might benefit from similar reinterpretation. Perhaps being god of destruction didn't have to mean what everyone assumed it meant. Perhaps, like the planet he'd just reshaped, the position itself could be transformed. Universe 6 neutral meeting grounds consisted of an asteroid field transformed into an elaborate celestial garden, floating islands connected by bridges of pure energy, each supporting different environments from across the universe. It was here, by ancient agreement, that beings from different realms could meet without violating territorial protocols. Vados awaited them at the central island, a perfect replica of a desert plateau complete with red rock formations and swirling dust devils. The female angel looked remarkably similar to her brother Whis, distinguished primarily by her wept hairstyle and the subtle differences in her staff design. Brother, she greeted Whis with a formal nod. And the new destroyer of Universe 7. How unexpected. Goku rubbed the back of his head awkwardly. Yeah, it kind of surprised me too. I imagine so. Vados studied him with undisguised curiosity. When Lord Champa heard the news, he was quite vocal in his disbelief. A mortal-born destroyer is unprecedented in recent cosmic history. Recent being the last several billion years, Whis added helpfully. Before Goku could respond, a flash of energy from nearby drew his attention. A figure rocketed toward them, trailing crimson ki that sliced through the artificial atmosphere, female, compact, with wild spiky hair that unmistakably marked her Saiyan heritage. She landed with a new force to crack the stone beneath her feet, rising slowly to fix Goku with a challenging glare. So, Caulifla said, her voice carrying the distinctive roughness Goku remembered, the rumors are true. The clown became a god. Goku grinned, unperturbed by the less than respectful greeting. Good to see you too, Caulifla. You've been training every day since the tournament. Her eyes narrowed as she circled him, assessing. They say you defeated Lord Beerus. That true, or just another tall tale? It's complicated, Goku admitted. We fought. I figured something out about destruction energy, and somehow that qualified as winning. Quote, HMPH. Caulifla stopped her circling, arms crossed. Doesn't look like much changed. You still have the same clueless expression. Vados cleared her throat delicately. Perhaps we should clarify the purpose of this meeting. My charge has traveled a considerable distance with a specific request. I want a fight, Caulifla stated bluntly. A real one, not that exhibition stuff from the tournament. I want to see what a god-level Saiyan can really do. Whis raised an eyebrow. Lord Goku has only just assumed his position. He's still learning to control his divine energy, and has already expended significant power today transforming a planet to save its population. Wait, Caulifla's aggressive stance faltered momentarily. You did what? Transformed a planet, Goku repeated. It's kind of a long story. Destruction gods aren't supposed to transform planets. They destroy them. That's literally in the job title. Goku shrugged. Yeah, I'm still figuring out the rules. Caulifla stared at him for a long moment, then burst into laughter, not mocking, but genuinely amused. Only you would get cosmic power and immediately start breaking cosmic rules. Maybe you haven't changed that much after all. Her laughter faded into a more serious expression as she dropped into a fighting stance. But God or not, I still want that fight. I've reached Super Saiyan 3 since we last met. And I'm not stopping there. Goku's eyes widened with genuine excitement. Really? That's amazing. It took me years to master that transformation. I'm not you, Caulifla replied, a fierce pride in her voice. Universe 6 Saiyans evolved differently. We have our own potential, our own path. I'd be honored to fight you, Goku said sincerely. But Whis is right, I'm still learning to control this new power. I wouldn't want to accidentally hurt me, Caulifla scoffed. Save your concern. I didn't come all this way for you to hold back. The two angels exchanged glances. A silent communication passing between them. Perhaps, Vados suggested, a controlled demonstration would be appropriate. My brother and I can establish barriers to contain any excessive displays of power. Whis nodded. A reasonable compromise. It would also provide a valuable opportunity for Lord Goku to practice precision control of his destruction energy. Goku looked to Caulifla, who was practically vibrating with anticipation. What do you say? A friendly match with some safety precautions. Whatever gets us fighting faster, she agreed impatiently. The angels moved in perfect synchronization, their staffs describing complex patterns in the air as they established a hemispherical barrier around the plateau, a containment field that would absorb and neutralize energy T might otherwise damage the fragile meeting grounds or, more concerningly, punch through to dimensional barriers beyond. The field is established, Whis announced. You may begin when ready, but Ace attempt to maintain some level of restraint. This is a demonstration, not a battle to the death. Speak for yourself, Caulifla muttered, but her smirk suggested she wasn't entirely serious. Goku settled into his familiar stance, feeling both at home in the familiar prelude to combat and strangely disconnected from it. His body remembered these movements, had performed them countless times across decades of training and fighting. But now that body hummed with energy it had never contained before, power that responded to intention more than technique, that blurred the line between Goku the martial artist and Goku the cosmic force. Caulifla didn't wait for further ceremony. With a fierce cry, she launched forward, her aura flaring golden as she transformed directly into Super Saiyan 2, EV. Idently deciding to save Super Saiyan 3 for when it would be needed. Her opening combination was blindingly fast, a sequence of strikes that would have overwhelmed most opponents through sheer speed and precision. Goku didn't dodge, he didn't block, he simply was elsewhere when the blows landed, his body moving not through conventional speed but through a partial phase shift that let Caulifla's attacks pass through the space he had occupied milliseconds earlier. Stop that, she demanded after several frustrated combinations yielded nothing but disturbed air. Fight me for real, I'm trying to figure out how, Goku admitted. Genuinely perplexed. My body's responding differently. It's like, I think about moving, and I'm already moved. Then stop thinking and hit back. To emphasize her point, Caulifla gathered her energy and unleashed a massive ki blast. Golden energy tinged with red, a technique she'd clearly developed since their last encounter. The beam rocketed toward Goku with enough force to vaporize a mountain. Acting on instinct, Goku extended one hand. Purple energy flickered across his palm as the beam struck, and vanished, absorbed not into a defensive barrier but the destruction energy that automatically manifested to protect its wielder. Caulifla's eyes widened. Okay, that was actually impressive. Goku looked at his hand in surprise. I didn't mean to do that. It just happened. Divine reflexes, Whis explained from outside the barrier. Your body automatically channels destruction energy to neutralize threats. You'll need to consciously override Hat instinct if you wish to experience attacks rather than simply nullifying them. Great, Caulifla muttered. He doesn't even need to try anymore. Something in her tone, disappointment layered over frustration, made Goku pause. This wasn't just about testing his power. For Caulifla, this was about measuring herself against what a Saiyan could become, about proving her own worth and potential. Wait, he called as she prepared another attack. Let me try something. Closing his eyes, Goku focused inward, sensing the currents of divine energy flowing through his transformed physiology. With careful concentration, he isolated that power, separating it from his more familiar ki, not suppressing it entirely, which would be impossible, but partitioning it to allow his base Saiyan abilities to function independently. When he opened his eyes, his aura had changed, still predominantly the gold of a Super Saiyan, but now with just a subtle hint of violet at its edges. "There," he said, dropping back into a fighting stance. "Now we can have a real match." God power dialed back, just two Saiyans testing each other's limits. Caulifla's expression shifted from frustration to cautious excitement. "You sure? No holding back?" "Well, some holding back," Goku amended with a grin. "But only the cosmic stuff. Everything else is fair game." The female Saiyan's answering smile was predatory. In that case, her aura expanded explosively, her hair lengthening dramatically as her body channeled the immense power of Super Saiyan 3. Unlike Goku's version of the transformation, which had taken years to master, Caulifla's interpretation seemed more efficient, less dramatic in its energy output but equally potent, adapted to her Universe 6 Saiyan physiology. "Impressive," Goku acknowledged genuinely. "You've really made that transformation your own." "Less talking, more fighting," she replied, but the pride in her voice was unmistakable. What followed was a battle unlike any Goku had experienced since his ascension. Pure martial skill without the complications of godhood, two Saiyan warriors pushing each other to their limits through technique, creativity, and sheer determination rather than overwhelming power. Caulifla fought with a distinctive style that combined brutal efficiency with flashes of improvisational brilliance, while Goku responded with the seasoned expertise of a lifetime. He spent mastering combat in all its forms. For those moments, trading blows at speeds that made them nearly invisible even to divine perception, testing new techniques against each other, finding an exploiting openings only to have those exploitations countered in turn. Goku felt himself again, not god of destruction but simply Son Goku, martial artist and Saiyan. And in Caulifla's fierce grin he landed a particularly clever combination. In the respect that gradually replaced the challenge in her eyes, he sensed something else, recognition. Not of his divinity or his power, but of his essence. The core of who he was beneath all titles and transformations. The battle concluded not with a decisive victory but with mutual exhaustion, both Saiyans reverting to base form as they collapsed on opposite sides of the plateau. Breathing heavily but unmistakably satisfied. "Not bad," Caulifla managed between breaths, for an old man who just became a god. Goku laughed, the sound carrying more genuine joy than he'd felt since the succession ceremony. "Not bad yourself. That variation on the Gaelic gun was something special. Developed it myself. Universe 6 original." The angels lowered their barrier, approaching the spent combatants with expressions that mixed amusement and assessment. "Most enlightening," Vados commented. "I don't believe I've ever observed a god of destruction voluntarily limiting their power for a recreational sparring match." Lord Goku continues to redefine the position, Whis agreed, offering a hand to help his charge to his feet. "Though I must note that even suppressed, your divine energy leaked into several of your techniques. The impact crater from your final exchange contains trace molecular rearrangement consistent with destruction influence." Goku accepted the help up, wincing slightly at muscles unaccustomed to restraining rather than channeling their full potential. "I'll need to work on that. It felt like holding back a sneeze, but with my whole body." An apt if inelegant comparison, Whis conceded. Caulifla rose on her own, brushing dust from her clothing with a casualness that didn't quite mask her continued assessment of Goku. "So what now, god of destruction? Back to your fancy temple to practice blowing up planets?" "Actually, I'm still figuring out my schedule," Goku admitted. "There's a whole universe to look after, apparently, but also training to do. This new power, it's different from anything I've worked with before." Caulifla's expression turned thoughtful. "Different how?" "It's not just stronger. It's fundamental, like it's connected to everything in a way ki isn't." "Because it is," Vados interjected. "Destruction energy is one of the basic forces that shape and maintain reality. What mortals call ki is merely a localized expression of life force. What you now wield is a universal constant." Goku scratched his head. "Yeah, that's what I meant. Just, harder to control because of that. You need a training partner." Caulifla stated abruptly. When the others looked at her questioningly, she elaborated with characteristic directness. Someone who can push you without getting disintegrated. Someone who understands Saiyan potential. Someone who isn't afraid of your fancy new title. You're volunteering? Goku asked, surprised but not displeased by the suggestion. Caulifla crossed her arms defensively. Don't get the wrong idea. I'm not impressed by your godhood. I'm interested in what it means for Saiyan potential. If one Saiyan can become a destroyer, what other cosmic roles might we qualify for? There's research value. Research. Right, Goku agreed, failing to entirely suppress a knowing smile that earned him a glare from the female Saiyan. The angels exchanged another glance, this one containing more complex communication than the previous. Such an arrangement would be unprecedented, Whis noted cautiously. Cross-universal visitation typically requires specific authorization, particularly when involving a destroyer's domain. But not explicitly forbidden, Vados countered. And potentially beneficial for Universe 7's new destroyer to have a training partner. Who can approach divine power without actually wielding it? The perspective could be educational. Lord Champa might object to losing one of Universe 6's most promising fighters, even temporarily. Lord Champa has been consuming excessive quantities of pudding since learning about Lord Beerus's replacement and is currently in a food coma. By the time he awakens, the arrangement would be a fait accompli. Goku and Caulifla watched this exchange with varying degrees of comprehension, though both recognized the fundamental dynamic of siblings finding ways to bend rules without technically breaking them. So, is that a yes? Goku finally asked. Whis sighed in a manner that somehow communicated both reluctance and resignation. Conditionally, as an experimental cultural exchange program between universes, strictly monitored and subject to immediate termination if any cosmic protocols are violated. Works for me, Caulifla declared before Goku could respond. When do we start? Aft. Our Lord Goku has completed his formal introduction to the other deities, Whis replied firmly. Which reminds me, we have an appointment with Universe 6's Supreme Kai that we are now running late for, thanks to this impromptu demonstration. Wait, Goku's expression shifted to confusion. I thought we just met with Universe 6. With its angel and immortal resident, yes. The Supreme Kai requires a separate, formal introduction, as do all major divine entities across the 12 universes. It's protocol. Goku's enthusiasm visibly dimmed at the prospect of cosmic bureaucracy. How many introductions are we talking about? 11 Supreme Kais, 11 gods of destruction, the Grand Minister, potentially Zeno himself, various lesser divine functionaries. Whis began counting on his fingers. I get the picture. Goku interrupted with a grimace. Caulifla smirked at his discomfort. Not all perks being a god, huh? Albeit Sadala when you're done with your divine meet and greet. Try not to let the fancy titles go to your head before then. As if you'd let me, Goku replied, his good humor returning. It's a deal. Once I'm done with the formalities, we'll train together. I think they both got a lot to learn from each other. As Whis prepared for their departure, Goku found himself unexpectedly looking forward to the arrangement. Beyond the obvious appeal of having a strong training partner, Caulifla represented something important, a connection to his Saiyan heritage that didn't carry the complicated history of his relationship with Vegeta, a fresh perspective on what his species could become. And perhaps most importantly, someone who saw him as Goku first and God of Destruction second, a distinction he was increasingly concerned might become rare as he settled into his new role. For now, however, there were protocols to follow and introductions to make. The multiverse was watching, and the new destroyer god had already begun reshaping expectations. The formal introduction to Universe 6's Supreme Kai was mercifully brief, a ceremony of mutual acknowledgement conducted on a sacred world that mirrored the one in Universe 7. Fua, a timid deity who seemed perpetually nervous, performed the rituals with meticulous attention to detail while avoiding direct eye contact with the new destroyer. Is he afraid of me? Goku whispered to Whis as they departed through dimensional space. Supreme Kais and destroyers maintain a delicate balance, the angel explained. Your life forces are connected. Should one die, so would the other. Additionally, your predecessor had a somewhat intimidating relationship with divine counterparts. You mean Beerus bullied them? I would never characterize a former Lord of Destruction in such terms, Whis replied primly, though his eyes sparkled with amusement. Let's just say your more approachable demeanor represents a significant adjustment for entities accustomed to a different dynamic. Their next stop was Universe 11, home to the Pride Troopers and their powerful leader Jiren, a realm Goku remembered well from the Tournament of Power. Unlike the relatively private ceremony with Fuwa, this introduction took place in a massive celestial amphitheater, with representatives from across the universe gathered to witness the presentation of Universe 7's new destroyer. Kai Kai, Universe 11's diminutive but dignified Supreme Kai, led the proceedings with formal gravity. Beside him stood Belmod, the clown-like god of destruction whom Goku recalled from the tournament, now watching with undisguised skepticism as Goku was presented to the assembly. The cosmic balance shifts with each succession, Kai Kai announced to the gathered representatives. Today we acknowledge Universe 7's transition and welcome its new arbiter of destruction. He paused, looking momentarily confused before continuing, Son Goku, formerly mortal champion of Earth. A murmur ran through the assembly. While news of Beerus's replacement had spread through divine circles, many of the mortal representatives were hearing it for the first time. Among them, Goku spotted several familiar faces from the Pride Troopers, their expressions ranging from shock to cautious respect. Belmod stepped forward, his perpetual smile somehow conveying doubt rather than welcome. The position of destroyer is sacred, fundamental to universal order. It requires wisdom accumulated over eons, perspective beyond mortal concerns, detachment from individual worlds. He cast a critical eye over Goku's informal stance. Are we to believe these qualities exist in one who, until recently, was merely a mortal fighter? Before Whis could intervene with a diplomatic response, Goku spoke directly. You're right, I don't have wisdom from living for millions of years. I can't pretend I do. He acknowledged candidly. But I've seen what happens when power exists without compassion, when rules are followed without understanding why they exist. Maybe what Universe 7 needs isn't another traditional destroyer, but someone who remembers what it's like to be on the receiving end of cosmic decisions. His straightforward answer silenced the murmurs, replacing them with thoughtful consideration. Even Belmod seemed momentarily at a loss for a rebuttal, though his skeptical expression remained unchanged. A new voice entered the conversation, melodic, precise, with a subtle authority that commanded attention despite its soft volume. An interesting perspective. One might even call it refreshingly novel. The speaker was a tall, slender female angel with pale blue skin and white hair styled in an elaborate updo, similar to Whis and Vados in her divine bearing, but with a more formal, reserved demeanor. She approached with measured steps, her staff tapping a precise rhythm against the crystalline floor. Margarita, Whis greeted her with a slight inclination of his head. May I present Lord Goku, God of Destruction for Universe 7. We are acquainted by reputation, Margarita replied, studying Goku with analytical intensity. Your performance in the Tournament of Power was noteworthy. Though I confess, your elevation to divinity was unexpected. Goku offered a respectful bow, conscious of Whis' subtle coaching on angel etiquette. It was unexpected for me too. I'm still learning what it all means. Indeed. Margarita circled him slowly, her assessment almost tangible. And what lesson did you learn from your first act as destroyer? The transformation of Goran Prime rather than the elimination of Mitsuhama. News travels quickly among celestial beings, she added. Noting Goku's surprised expression. I learned that destruction doesn't always have to be about ending things, Goku answered honestly. Sometimes it can be about making space for new beginnings. A flicker of something, not quite approval, but perhaps interest, crossed Margarita's perfect features. A heterodox interpretation. The Grand Minister will certainly wish to discuss it with you. The mention of the Grand Minister, father to all angels and chief attendant to Zeno himself, sent a ripple of nervous energy through Goku. Even he, with his characteristic casualness toward authority, recognized the significance of that potential conversation. Lord Goku has many introductions yet to complete, Whis interjected smoothly. Perhaps any theological discussions might wait for a more appropriate forum. Of course. Margarita inclined her head slightly. However, I would be remiss in my duties if I didn't extend an invitation for Universe 7's new destroyer to return for a more comprehensive discussion of cosmic philosophy. Lord Belmod has developed quite sophisticated theories over his tenure. Belmont's expression suggested this was news to him, but he adapted quickly. Indeed, perhaps such an exchange might help guide a newcomer toward more traditional applications of destruction energy. I'd like that, Goku replied sincerely, missing the political undercurrents. I have a lot to learn about this position. As the formal ceremony concluded and they prepared to depart for the next introduction, Margarita approached Whis while the other dignitaries dispersed. Your new charge is either refreshingly naive or surprisingly subtle, she observed quietly. I cannot yet determine which is more concerning. Lord Goku contains multitudes, Whis replied enigmatically. I suspect we have only begun to discover what his ascension truly means for the cosmic order. Margarita's gaze followed the Saiyan as he awkwardly received formal salutations from various officials. The other universes are watching, brother. Some with curiosity, others with apprehension. A mortal-born destroyer with unorthodox methods, the implications are far-reaching. Change often is, Whis acknowledged. Though whether for better or worse remains to be seen. As they departed Universe 11, Goku couldn't shake the feeling that he'd passed some form of test, though whether successfully or not, he couldn't tell. What was becoming increasingly clear, however, was that his actions as destroyer would be scrutinized not just for their immediate effects but for their implications regarding cosmic order itself. It was a responsibility far beyond anything he'd imagined when accepting the position, yet strangely, it didn't weigh on him as heavily as it might have. Perhaps because, at his core, Son Goku had always understood something fundamental about power. It wasn't what you could do that mattered most, but what you chose to do with the abilities you had. As god of destruction, those choices now carried universal consequences. And somewhere deep in his transformed being, Goku suspected that was precisely why the position had come to him, not despite his unorthodox perspective, but because of it. The multiverse was changing. Perhaps its agents of destruction needed to change as well. Chapter 2. Balance. The Temple of Destruction floated in dimensional space, a series of inverted pyramids and floating gardens eternally bathed in the purple light of a cosmos outside normal spacetime. Once Beerus's domain, the divine residence had undergone subtle transformations over the past 6 months to reflect its new occupants' sensibilities. Training grounds now occupied previously empty courtyards. The fish in ornamental ponds had been replaced with species from Earth's oceans. And the dining hall, once formal and imposing, now featured a casual arrangement reminiscent of the Sun family kitchen. Caulifla sprawled across a divan in the central chamber, one leg dangling over its edge while she tossed energy spheres at increasingly complex targets that was conjured in the air above. Her casual posture belied the precision of her attacks, each sphere threading through obstacles to strike its mark with calculated force. 98, 99, 100, she counted, extinguishing the final target with a flick of her finger. That's a new record. Your move, Angel. Whis inclined his head in acknowledgement. Most impressive. Your energy control has improved remarkably since you began training here. I had a decent teacher, Caulifla admitted grudgingly. She sat up, stretching muscles sore from hours of concentration. Speaking of which, where is Lord Destruction? Still meditating in the Void Garden. Indeed, he's been there since returning from the Andromeda conflict yesterday. Caulifla snorted. 12 hours of sitting still. I'll never understand how someone with that much power and that short an attention span can meditate for so long. Irresponsibilities of godhood require periodic realignment of divine energy, Whis explained, though his tone suggested he'd given this explanation many times before. Particularly after using unorthodox techniques like those Lord Goku employed to stabilize the quasar. Yeah, cosmic balance, energy harmonization, dimensional resonance. Caulifla waved a dismissive hand. I've heard the lecture. Doesn't make watching him sit motionless for half a day any more exciting. The female Saiyan rose, pacing the chamber with restless energy. Though officially a cultural exchange representative from Universe 6, she had effectively become a permanent fixture in Goku's divine residence over the past months. Part training partner, part unofficial student, part critic of his developing godhood. Her quarters in the Eastern Wing reflected her extended stay, gradually accumulating personal touches from her homeworld Sadala. Perhaps your time might be better spent preparing for tomorrow's summit, Whis suggested. Dismissing the training program with a gesture. As Lord Goku's invited guest, you'll be expected to observe certain protocols in the presence of multiple destroyers and supreme Kais. Caulifla made a face. More divine etiquette. Bow to this god. Don't make eye contact with that one. Never mention putting around Lord Champa. The Multiversal Balance Summit occurs only once every 1,000 years. It's an honor rarely extended to non-divine beings. Yeah, well, the honor comes with too many rules, Caulifla grumbled, though without real heat. I'm going to check on him. 6 months as a god hasn't given him enough sense to eat when he should. Whis watched her departure with a carefully neutral expression that nonetheless contained traces of amusement. The dynamic between the brash female Saiyan and the new god of destruction had developed in unexpected ways, characterized less by student-teacher formality than by mutual challenge and a growing camaraderie that transcended their different universal origins. More interesting still was how Goku seemed to thrive on her irreverent treatment of his divine status, as though her refusal to be impressed by his godhood helped him maintain connection to his mortal self. Most intriguing, Whis murmured to himself as he consulted the chronometer embedded in his staff. And soon to become more complicated, if recent interdimensional patterns continue as predicted. The Void Garden existed in a pocket dimension attached to the temple, a space where multiple realities overlapped, creating a landscape that defied conventional physics. Floating islands of barren stone drifted through luminescent mist, while theoretical plant forms that couldn't exist in normal space bloomed in fractalized patterns. Gravity shifted unpredictably, sometimes pulling in multiple directions simultaneously. At the garden's center, Goku hovered cross-legged above a pool of liquid that wasn't quite water, a substance that reflected not his physical form but the state of his divine energy. Currently, the pool showed turbulent patterns of purple and silver, indication that his recent exertions had disrupted his usual energetic balance. Still sitting around while the universe handles itself. Caulifla's voice cut through the dimensional silence as she navigated the shifting pathways with practiced ease. Some god of destruction. He old cat at least destroyed things occasionally. Goku's eyes remained closed, but a smile tugged at the corners of his mouth. I destroyed plenty yesterday, just not the way everyone expected. Yo, you mean when you unraveled that quasar thread by thread instead of just blasting the whole system? The angels are still talking about that, by the way. Apparently, it's unprecedented. She emphasized the word with exaggerated formality, mimicking Whis's tone. It worked, didn't it? 3 inhabited worlds saved, cosmic balance maintained. And you completely drained yourself doing it. Caulifla landed on the inverted stone platform nearest his meditation spot, crossing her arms as she studied his suspended form. You look better today. Less like death warmed over. Goku's eyes finally opened, silver-violet energy briefly flickering across his irises before settling back to their normal black. I feel better. Think I've finally rebalanced my destruction energy after that technique. Good, because we've got that big fancy summit tomorrow, and Whis says you need to project appropriate divine authority, or something equally stuffy. The Balance Summit. Goku sighed, uncrossing his legs. To stand on the surface of the reflective pool, a feat possible only in the Void Garden's altered physics. 3 days of cosmic politics with beings who've been gods for millions of years. Just what I was looking forward to. Could be worse, Caulifla offered. You could be stuck training with Vegeta instead. That earned a genuine laugh. Vegeta would actually love the summit. All the formal PR, protocol and divine hierarchy, it's right up his royal alley. The mention of Earth brought a subtle shift to Goku's expression, a momentary wistfulness that Caulifla had learned to recognize over their months training together. Speaking of Earth, she said casually, isn't your youngest kid's birthday coming up? Next week, Goku confirmed. I promised Goten I'd be there, summit or no summit. You'll make it work. You always do. Caulifla tossed a condensed energy sphere at his head, a training exercise they'd developed to test reflexes. Catch. Goku caught it without looking, the sphere hovering above his palm before he compressed it further, transforming the raw energy into a crystallized form that resembled a miniature star. With a flick of his wrist, he sent it back toward Caulifla. Who snatched it from the air with 2 fingers. Show off, she accused without rancor. Your control's getting better. Had to. After that planet-wide blackout the first time I sneezed with destruction energy. Poor Whis nearly had an aneurysm. Caulifla grinned at the memory. So, I've been thinking. Whatever she'd been about to suggest was interrupted by a resonant chime echoing through the void. D-Garden, the temple's equivalent of an alarm system. Goku's expression immediately shifted from casual to focused. That's the dimensional breach warning. Without further discussion, both Saiyans moved in perfect synchronization. Goku placing a hand on Caulifla's shoulder as he activated the instantaneous movement technique he'd refined since becoming Destroyer. Reality blurred around them, Diamond. Saiyans sliding past like pages in a book before they rematerialized in the temple's observation chamber. Whis already stood before the massive scrying pool that served as the temple's window to the universe. His staff extended over its rippling surface. The liquid showed a turbulent region of space near the boundary between universes 7 and 11, where the fabric of reality visibly thinned to near transparency. Another breach? Goku asked, immediately moving to Whis' side. The fourth this month, the angel confirmed, his typically pleasant expression showing rare concern. And significantly larger than previous instances. The boundary between universes is weakening at an accelerating rate. Caulifla studied the image with narrowed eyes. What happens if it tears completely? Universal collapse becomes possible, Whis replied matter-of-factly. Spatial domains not designed to interact would contaminate each other, creating cascade failures across dimensional barriers. In other words, really bad, Goku translated, studying the breach with the focused attention he once reserved solely for powerful opponents. 6 months of godhood had developed this analytical side of his personality. The ability to assess cosmic threats with the same intensity he'd once applied to martial challenges. Can you seal it like the others? Caulifla asked. Goku extended a hand over the scrying pool, RPLE energy gathering around his fingers as he probed the dimensional tear remotely. This one's different. The edges are fraying instead of cleanly torn. Like something's deliberately weakening the boundary. That shouldn't be possible, Whis noted, adjusting his staff to magnify the image. Interdimensional barriers are fundamental cosmic constructs, established at the formation of the multiverse itself. They don't fray through natural processes. Then someone's doing it deliberately. Goku's expression hardened. We need to investigate directly. The summit begins tomorrow, Whis reminded him. All destroyers are expected to attend without exception. This takes priority. If these breaches keep growing, I agree the situation is concerning, but perhaps it might be more efficient. NT to raise the matter at the summit itself. Whis suggested. The collected wisdom of 12 universes, divine hierarchies might provide insights we currently lack. Goku hesitated, clearly torn between immediate action and strategic patience, a tension that had characterized much of his adjustment to godhood. As a mortal fighter, his instinct had always been to confront threats directly and immediately. As Destroyer, he was learning that cosmic-level problems sometimes required more measured approaches. Fine, he conceded reluctantly. But we document everything about this breach. I want to present concrete evidence. Not just theories. A wise approach, Whis approved. In the meantime, perhaps we should resume preparations for your presentation. You are, after all, expected to summarize your first 6 months as Destroyer before the assembled pantheons. Goku's expression shifted from cosmic concern to personal dread so quickly that Caulifla couldn't suppress a laugh. What's the matter, Lord Destruction? She teased. Facing universal collapse is one thing, but giving a speech has you scared. At least I can punch universal collapse, Goku muttered. Can't exactly fight my way through a formal address to the gods. Actually, Whis interjected thoughtfully, given your particular approach to the position thus far, that's not entirely inaccurate as a metaphor. The cosmic nexus existed outside conventional universal boundaries, a neutral dimension created specifically for interaction between divine entities from different realms. Unlike the sacred worlds or destroyers' temples, the nexus resembled a massive celestial city, with architecture drawn from every universe's cultural aesthetics. Crystal spires reminiscent of Universe 2's divine capital rose alongside the BR. Utilist energy constructs favored by Universe 11's pantheon. Floating gardens inspired by Universe 10's naturalistic approach orbited massive technological hubs that reflected Universe 3's mechanical precision. At the Nexus center stood the Hall of Balance, a structure that somehow incorporated elements from all 12 universes while transcending any single aesthetic. Goku materialized on the designated arrival platform. Whis and Caulifla at his side. Unlike his usual casual attire, the Saiyan god wore formal vestments that blended traditional destroyer regalia with subtle modifications reflecting his personal style, the conventional purple and gold complemented by an orange sash reminiscent of his preferred GI. The overall effect was striking, divine authority tempered by individual character. Remember, Whis murmured as they proceeded toward the central hall, you represent not just yourself but the cosmic office of destruction for Universe 7. Comport yourself accordingly. Yeah, stand straight, speak clearly. Don't mention that time I turned Champa's favorite desert planet into a training ground. An incident Lord Champa has thankfully not yet discovered, Whis noted with mild exasperation. Though given his attendance today, discretion remains advisable. Caulifla snickered. The pudding planet incident, still my favorite of your divine interventions. Their banty ceased as they approached the grand entrance, where divine representatives from multiple universes converged in a dizzying display of cosmic authority. Supreme Kais in their formal regalia nodded respectfully to their destroyer counterparts. Angel attendants exchanged formal greetings with mathematical precision. Lesser divine functionaries scurried between groups, ensuring protocols were observed and ancient enmities kept in check. Lord Goku, the booming voice of Universe 10's destroyer, Rumsshi, cut through the dignified murmurs. The elephant-headed deity approached with surprising grace for his massive frame. The novice destroyer graces us with his presence at last. Though the words might have conveyed mockery from another, Rumshi's tone held genuine welcome, perhaps the only destroyer who had unreservedly approved of Goku's ascension, having remembered his fighting spirit from the Tournament of Power. Lord Rumsshi, Goku greeted with a respectful bow that Whis had drilled into him over countless practice sessions. It's good to see you again. Indeed, the divine realms have buzzed with tales of your unorthodox methods. Transforming planets rather than destroying them. Unraveling quasars thread by thread. Revolutionary approaches, or heretical ones, depending on whom you ask. Rumsshi winked conspiratorially. The old guard fears change, but some of us find it refreshing. Before Goku could respond, another figure glided into their conversation. Margarita, Universe 11's angel attendant, her perfect posture and serene expression unchanged since their last encounter. Lord Rumsshi exaggerates slightly, she interjected smoothly. We find Lord Goku's approaches not fearsome but worthy of careful observation. Traditional methods persist for reasons beyond mere inertia. Margarita, Whis acknowledged his sister with a formal nod. I trust Lord Belmont is in attendance as well. Of course, though he remains skeptical about certain recent cosmic developments. Her gaze shifted to Caulifla, one elegant eyebrow rising fractionally. I see Universe 7 continues its unusual practice of including mortal associates in divine affairs. Cultural exchange representative, Caulifla responded before Whis could intervene, her tone deliberately casual. Keeping the new destroyer grounded in practical reality while you all discuss theoretical cosmic abstractions. Arcarita's expression remained unchanged, but something like amusement flickered briefly in her eyes. How pragmatic. Universe 11 values practicality as well, though we typically find divine perspective sufficient for cosmic governance. Different methods, same goals, Goku interjected diplomatically, a phrase Whis had suggested for navigating potentially contentious divine interactions. Indeed, Margarita's attention returned to him. Her assessment almost tangible. Speaking of methods, the Grand Minister has expressed particular interest in your presentation today. Your approach to the Andromeda Quasar situation has raised questions about the conventional boundaries of destruction energy application. Goku maintained his composure despite the implicit warning. I look forward to discussing it with him. As do we all. With a slight inclination of her head, Margarita glided away toward another group of divine representatives. Political, Caulifla muttered once the angel was out of earshot. Everything's so political here. The governance of reality generally is, Whis noted with mild amusement. Though I must commend you both on navigating that exchange rather gracefully. Perhaps our protocol rehearsals weren't entirely in vain. Their conversation was interrupted by a resonant tone that echoed through the gathering, the signal for all attendees to enter the Hall of Balance for the summit's commencement. Divine representatives began moving with synchronized dignity toward the massive doors, which opened without visible mechanism to reveal the vast chamber beyond. Goku took a deep breath, centering himself as Whis had taught him. Here we go. Just 3 days of cosmic politics, divine judgment, and trying not to accidentally destroy anything with a sneeze. Caulifla bumped his shoulder lightly. You've got this, god of destruction. Just be the Goku who punched Beerus into retirement. Despite his apprehension, Goku found himself grinning at her characteristic bluntness. When you put it that way, how hard can a little multiversal summit be? The answer, as he would soon discover, was considerably more complicated than either Saiyan anticipated. The Hall of Balance defied mortal comprehension. Its interior expanded far beyond what its external dimensions suggested, creating a space that could comfortably accommodate representatives from all 12 UNIV. RSES while maintaining appropriate hierarchical distances between different classes of divinity. The ceiling, if such a conventional term applied, appeared to contain the actual cosmos, stars and galaxies moving in real time above the assembled deities. At the chamber's center stood a circular platform of material that resembled neither crystal nor metal but something more fundamental, raw creation energy solidified into physical form. 12 ornate thrones arranged in a perfect circle occupied the platform's edge, each designed to reflect the aesthetic of its universe. Beyond these, in concentric rings of decreasing elevation, stood positions for supreme Kais, angel attendants, and divine functionaries of lesser rank. The Grand Minister, father to all angels and primary attendant to Xeno hymns, Elf, floated serenely above the central platform. His diminutive form belied the immense power and authority he wielded as the multiverse's highest administrative authority. We convene the Millennial Balance Summit, he announced, his voice somehow reaching every corner of the vast chamber without increasing in volume. All universes are represented, all hierarchies acknowledged, all protocols observed. Goku took his designated position at Universe 7's Destroyer throne, a seat previously occupied by Beerus for millennia. Unlike the other gods who settled into their positions with practiced ease, he remained slightly uncomfortable with the formality, though careful to maintain the dignified appearance Whis had emphasized as crucial. From across the circle, he caught Universe 6 Achampa watch, hing him with barely disguised suspicion. The corpulent feline deity, Beerus's brother and longtime rival, had taken his predecessor's replacement as a personal affront, as though Goku had deliberately undermined the divine feline lineage. Our first order of business, the Grand Minister continued, concerns the increasingly frequent boundary disturbances between universal domains. Multiple breaches have been reported along dimensional borders, particularly concentrated near the boundaries of Universes 7, 6, and 11. A murmur passed through the assembled deities. Goku straightened, his attention sharpening at the confirmation that the breach they'd detected wasn't an isolated incident. These anomalies require investigation, the Grand Minister stated. The natural separation between universal domains is fundamental to cosmic stability. Any degradation represents a potentially catastrophic threat to the established order. Belmod, Universe 11's clown-like destroyer, rose from his throne. If I may, Grand Minister, Universe 11 has experienced 3 such breaches along our eastern boundary in recent months. Our initial assessment suggested natural dimensional fluctuations, but their INC rising frequency contradicts this hypothesis. Universe 6 has detected similar disturbances, Vados added from her position behind Champa's throne. Most recently, a breach large enough to allow exotic matter transfer between domains. The Grand Minister nodded gravely. Universe 7, your experiences with these phenomena. Goku stood, conscious of all attention turning toward him, the newest and most unorthodox destroyer, whose perspective would be scrutinized for any deviation from cosmic orthodoxy. We've documented 4 breaches in the past month alone, he reported, the formal language feeling strange but necessary in this context. The most recent showed signs of deliberate manipulation, not natural deterioration but targeted weakening of the dimensional barrier. This statement caused a more pronounced reaction among the assembled deities. Deliberate tampering with universal boundaries wasn't merely concerning, it was heretical, an offense against the fundamental structure of reality as established by Xeno himself. Elaborate on these signs of manipulation, the Grand Minister requested, his serene expression unchanged despite the gravity of the assertion. Goku gestured to Whis, who projected an image from his staff into the center of the hall, a detailed energetic analysis of the breach they'd observed before departing for the summit. As the assembled gods studied the projection, Goku explained the distinctive pattern of deterioration he'd detected, not a clean tear but a progressive weakening along specific energy frequencies. It resembles a controlled dissolution rather than random failure, he concluded, like someone's found a way to selectively unravel the dimensional fabric. A concerning assessment, the Grand Minister acknowledged, though one requiring verification before conclusions are drawn. I propose the formation of an investigative council to coordinate our response to these breaches, representatives from the affected universes working in concert rather than isolation. Agreed, Rumsshi declared immediately, though I suggest Universe 10's inclusion as well, given our position as a dimensional nexus between the affected domains. What fall owed was precisely the kind of divine political maneuvering that Goku found most challenging about his new position. Subtle negotiations over representation, authority, and protocol, conducted through layers of formal language and ancient precedent. Though he participated as required, offering Universe 7's perspective on the proposed council, he found his attention repeatedly drawn to a figure observing from the chamber's periphery. She stood among Universe 4's lesser divine representatives, a tall, elegant woman with pale blue skin and flowing white hair that contained subtle highlights of lavender. Unlike those around her, who watched the proceedings with appropriate deference, she studied the assembly with calculating intensity, her attention repeatedly returning to Goku himself. When their eyes met briefly across the chamber, he felt an unexpected resonance, not attraction exactly, but recognition of a fundamental nature, as though they shared some quality unknown even to themselves. The investigative council is established, the Grand Minister announced, returning Goku's attention to the proceedings. Representatives from Universes 6, 7, 10, and 11 will coordinate efforts to identify the cause of these breaches and recommend appropriate response. Lord Goku, given your direct experience with the most severe manifestation, Universe 7 will serve as primary coordinator. This announcement sent another ripple of surprise through the assembly. Assigning leadership to the newest and least experienced destroyer represented either remarkable confidence or a deliberate test, perhaps both. I accept the responsibility, Goku replied formally, though inwardly questioning the wisdom of placing him in charge of anything involving divine politics. Universe 7 will facilitate information exchange and coordinate investigation efforts. As the summit moved to its next agenda item, a tedious review of energy allocation between creation and destruction forces, Goku found his gaze drawn once more to the mysterious blue-skinned woman. She was gone, her position among Universe 4's representatives now empty, as though she'd never been there at all. Who was that? He whispered to Whis, when a procedural discussion provided momentary cover for private conversation. To whom do you refer? The angel replied, his attention seemingly focused on the ongoing debate. Blue skin, white hair with purple highlights. Standing with Universe 4 until a few minutes ago. Something flickered across Whis' typically unreadable expression. Surprise, perhaps, or concern. There is no such representative in Universe 4's delegation. Perhaps a momentary perceptual anomaly. Divine gatherings can sometimes create unusual sensory effects for newer deities. But Goku knew what he'd seen, and more importantly, what he'd felt. The woman had been real, her presence as tangible as any deity in the chamber. And the resonance between them suggested a connection that transcended conventional divine hierarchy. Who she was and why she'd been observing him remained mysteries, but instinct told him they were mysteries connected to the dimensional breaches currently threatening universal boundaries. The incidents seemed too precise to be accidental. For now, however, he returned his attention to the summit proceedings, filing the observation away for future investigation. Whatever game was being played in the shadows of divine politics, he suspected it was only beginning to reveal itself. Day 1 of the summit concluded with elaborate ceremonies reaffirming cosmic hierarchies, rituals that felt antiquated to Goku but clearly held profound significance for the established divine order. As formal proceedings gave way to slightly less formal divine mingling, he found himself surrounded by deities, eager to assess Universe 7's unprecedented destroyer. "The transformation technique you employed on Goran Prime," inquired Iraq, the long-necked destroyer of Universe 5, "did it require preparatory calculation? Or was it instinctive application?" "Bit of both," Goku admitted, somewhat uncomfortable with the technical framing of what had been, for him, an intuitive process. "I visualized the planetary structure I wanted, then used destruction energy to remove what didn't fit that pattern." "Fascinating," Iraq murmured. "Most unorthodox, yet undeniably effective. The traditional approach would have simply eliminated Mitsuhama entirely, which would have been simpler." Likier, the fox-like destroyer of Universe 8, noted with a hint of criticism. "Cleaner, more aligned with our cosmic mandate." "But 3 billion people would have died," Goku countered, maintaining the diplomatic tone Whis had drilled into him while remaining firm on his principles. Transformation served the same cosmic purpose, preventing chaotic planetary collapse, without unnecessary loss of life. "Life is transient by design," Likier replied with a dismissive gesture. "Our role isn't to preserve individual civilizations but to maintain universal balance through controlled elimination." "Perhaps," interjected a new voice, melodic and precise, "there are multiple valid interpretations of the destroyer mandate. Cosmic balance doesn't necessarily dictate methodology, only outcome." Margarita had joined their circle, her perfect posture and serene expression providing no hint of her opinion on the debate. Beside her stood Belmod, whose painted smile contrasted with the critical assessment in his eyes as he studied Goku. "Angel philosophy," Belmod commented, his tone hovering between respect and dismissal. "Elegant but sometimes detached from practical cosmic governance. A destroyer who refuses to destroy creates fundamental imbalance, regardless of intentions or alternative methods." "I never said I refuse to destroy," Goku clarified. "I've eliminated threats when necessary. I just don't believe it should be the automatic first response to every cosmic issue." "A nuanced position," Margarita acknowledged, though one raising interesting questions about destroyer appointment criteria. "Traditionally, the position seeks those with natural inclination toward elimination rather than preservation." "Yeah, well, I never applied for the job," Goku reminded them with a hint of his characteristic directness. "It kind of happened when I beat Beerus." This blunt acknowledgement of his unorthodox ascendancy created a momentary awkward silence among the divine gathering, a reminder that unlike every other destroyer present, Goku hadn't been selected through conventional means but had effectively won the position through combat. Caulifla, who had been observing nearby with remarkable restraint given her typically outspoken nature, chose this moment to approach their circle. "Sorry to interrupt," she said with a formality that Goku recognized as entirely artificial, "but Lord Goku has a scheduled consultation with Universe 6 representatives regarding the Investigative Council." It was a transparent excuse to extract him from the increasingly tense conversation, but one Goku gratefully accepted. With appropriate formal apologies to the assembled destroyers, he followed Caulifla toward a less crowded section of the reception hall. "Thanks for the rescue," he murmured once they were out of immediate divine earshot. "Any longer and I might have forgotten the diplomatic phrases Whis made me memorize." "Figured you were about 10 seconds from telling Fox Face exactly what you thought about his life is transient philosophy," Caulifla replied with a knowing smirk. "Which would have been entertaining but probably bad for intergalactic politics. They're so casual about destroying entire civilizations," Goku said, his voice lowered despite the unlikelihood of being overheard. "Like it's just routine maintenance." "That's because for them, it is." Caulifla's expression turned surprisingly thoughtful. "They've been at this for millions of years, Goku. Perspective changes when you live that long. Is that supposed to make me feel better about eventually thinking that way?" "Nope. It's supposed to remind you why it's good that someone like you got the job instead of another immort. Al bureaucrat with no connection to mortal life." She punctuated this with a light punch to his shoulder, a gesture that would have scandalized the more traditional deities had they witnessed it. "Your stubbornly mortal perspective is exactly what makes you different. Don't lose that." Before Goku could respond, a subtle shift in the ambient energy of the hall caught his attention, a familiar resonance he'd felt earlier during the formal proceedings. Scanning the crowded reception, he located its source almost immediately. The blue-skinned woman he'd noticed earlier now stood in animated conversation with several lesser divine functionaries near an ornamental fountain. Up close, details he'd missed from a distance became apparent, the subtle pattern of geometric markings on her visible skin. The unnatural luminescence of her lavender eyes, the staff she carried that resembled those used by angels but with significant structural differences. "Who are you looking at?" Caulifla asked, following his gaze. "You see her. Blue skin, white hair, by the fountain." "Yeah, what about her?" Goku frowned. "Whis claimed she wasn't here, suggested I imagined her." "Well, she looks pretty real to me." Caulifla studied the woman with narrowed eyes. "Weird energy signature though, doesn't feel fully divine, but definitely not mortal either." As if sensing their attention, the woman looked up, meeting Goku's gaze directly across the crowded hall. Instead of looking away, she smiled, a knowing expression that suggested she'd been waiting for him to notice her again. With a subtle gesture, she indicated a secluded alcove near the hall's periphery before excusing herself from her current conversation and moving gracefully in that direction. "I think she wants to talk," Goku murmured. "Obviously," Caulifla replied dryly. "Question is, do you want to talk to her?" Mysterious woman Whis pretends doesn't exist at a summit discussing dimensional breaches. Screams, "Trap," to me. Or information source, Goku countered. "Either way, only one way to find out." "Fine, but I'm coming with you. Someone needs to keep an eye out while you chat with the suspicious blue lady." They navigated the crowded reception with practiced ease, Goku acknowledging formal greetings from various divine representatives while maintaining his course toward the indicated alcove. The space proved to be a small meditation chamber, partially isolated from the main hall by energy fields that dampened sound and created relative privacy without complete separation. The woman awaited them, serene and poised despite the irregular nature of their meeting. Up close, her resemblance to the angels was even more pronounced, though with subtle differences that suggested a related but distinct evolutionary path. "Lord Goku," she greeted him, her voice carrying musical undertones that seemed to resonate on multiple frequencies simultaneously. "And his Saiyan companion, how interesting that you both perceived me when others did not. You know who I am," Goku observed, bypassing formal pleasantries. "You have me at a disadvantage." A smile curved her blue lips, approval, perhaps, at his direct approach. "I am Taoa, scholar, scientist, and observer of cosmic anomalies, particularly those currently threatening universal boundaries." "You're not from Universe 4, Caulifla stated flatly. "So why pretend to be among their representatives?" "Perception filters are useful tools when one wishes to observe without official credentials," Taoa replied with casual confidence. "The divine bureaucracy can be tediously restrictive about attendance requirements." "You crashed a God summit." Caulifla sounded almost impressed despite her suspicion. "I prefer conducted independent verification of reported phenomena. The diamonds, ional breaches concern multiple realms, including those not represented in your limited 12-universe framework." This statement immediately captured Goku's full attention. "You're from outside the known multiverse." "My origins are complex," Taoa responded, her tone suggesting she deliberately avoided a direct answer. "But my current concern aligns with yours, the increasing instability between dimensional boundaries threatens structures beyond your conventional cosmic understanding." "That doesn't actually answer the question," Caulifla pointed out. Taoa inclined her head slightly in acknowledgement. "True, but perhaps a more productive question would be, why are the breaches occurring, and who benefits from weakening universal boundaries?" "You tell me," Goku replied, studying her carefully. "Since you seem to know more about it than the assembled gods out there." "The breaches are artificial, deliberate manipulations of fundamental cosmic forces by entities with specific intent." Taoa's expression remained composed, but something like urgency entered her voice. "They seek access to particular universal domains for purposes that would fundamentally alter the cosmic balance you're sworn to protect." "What entities?" Goku pressed. "And what purposes?" "There are spaces between and beyond your 12 universes, realms that exist outside Xeno's direct authority. Some have developed technologies or methodologies that allow them to interact with conventional universal space despite natural barriers. And they want in," Caulifla concluded. "But why target specific universal boundaries? What's special about universes 6, 7, and 11? Taoa's gaze shifted fully to Goku, her lavender eyes seeming to assess something beyond his physical form. They contain unique energy signatures of interest to these entities. Particularly Universe 7, which recently underwent a significant cosmic transition with your ascension to destroyer status. You're saying they're targeting me. Or something related to me. I'm saying your unorthodox approach to destruction energy represents both threat and opportunity to certain extra-dimensional interests. Taoa produced a small crystalline device from within her robes, offering it to Goku. This contains data on breach patterns and energy signatures of collected independently. It may prove useful to your investigative council. Goku accepted the crystal cautiously, feeling subtle energetic resonances within its structure, information encoded in a format beyond conventional technology. Why help us? Caulifla asked, voicing the suspicion Goku felt but hadn't articulated. What's your stake in this? Balance benefits everyone, even those outside your conventional cosmic hierarchy. Tao's attention shifted as though responding to something neither Saiyan could perceive. Our conversation must conclude. The angels grow curious about this interaction, particularly your attendant, who approaches with questions. Sure enough, Goku could now sense Whis' distinctive energy signature moving purposefully through the reception toward their location. One final counsel, Taoa added, her voice lowered despite the privacy shields. The NCIL you've formed is insufficient for the threat at hand. You'll need unconventional allies, those familiar with spaces beyond universal boundaries, those with experience navigating the gaps between defined realities. Like you, Goku guessed. Taoa's smile returned, enigmatic and knowing. Among others, there's one in particular I suggest you seek, a former space pirate with unique perceptual abilities. Zangya of the Galaxy Soldiers. Zangya is dead, Caulifla stated flatly. Killed by Bojack decades ago. Death is often less permanent than it appears, particularly for those with useful skills. Taoa stepped backward, her form beginning to shimmer with energy that suggested imminent departure. The crystal contains coordinates for a dimensional pocket where her essence remains suspended, neither fully alive nor truly dead. With your unique approach to destruction energy, Lord Goku, you might succeed where others failed in restoring her. Before either could respond, Whis entered the meditation alcove, his typically pleasant expression showing rare concern. Lord Goku, your presence is requested by the Grand Minister for further discussion of the Investigative Council parameters. His gaze shifted to where Taoa had stood moments before, now empty space with only the faintest resonance indicating recent occupation. Was someone else here with you? Goku and Caulifla exchanged answers, a silent communication developed over months of training together. Just taking a moment away from the crowd, Goku replied, slipping the crystal into his formal robes. Divine gatherings are still overwhelming sometimes. Whis studied him with the unreadable expression that suggested he recognized the evasion but had elected not to pursue it immediately. Indeed. However, proper protocol suggests informing your attendant before separating from the main assembly. Sorry about that, Goku offered with genuine contrition. Still learning the rules, an ongoing process, Whis acknowledged with resigned patience. Now, shall we attend to the Grand Minister? It would be unwise to keep him waiting, particularly given your new leadership role. As they followed Whis back toward the main reception, Caulifla leaned close to murmur in Goku's ear, so we're really not telling him about mysterious Blue Lady and her magic crystal. Not yet, Goku whispered back. Something tells me we need to verify her information independently before involving the official channels. Breaking the rules already. I'm a bad influence on you. Or I'm just learning when following protocol might not get us the whole truth. Goku's expression turned thoughtful. Either way, I want to check out that dimensional pocket she mentioned. If Zangya really is suspended there, then we potentially have an ALLY with first-hand experience against whoever's trying to break into our universes, Caulifla completed his thought. Assuming Blue Lady isn't setting us up for something worse. Only one way to find out. As they rejoined the Divine Assembly, Goku's thoughts remained split between his formal duties and the unexpected information Taoa had provided. If the dimensional breaches were indeed deliberate incursions rather than natural anomalies, the cosmic implications extended far beyond what even the assembled gods currently understood. And if entities beyond the known multiverse had taken I see interest in his approach to destruction energy, Perhaps his unorthodox methods weren't merely controversial but potentially revolutionary in ways even he hadn't yet grasped. The summit's second D. I progressed with excruciating slowness. Formal presentations from each universe regarding cosmic balance status, tedious debates about energy allocation between creation and destruction forces, serum. O'Neill reaffirmations of divine hierarchies that seemed designed primarily to reinforce existing power structures. Throughout it all, Goku maintained the appropriate facade of attentive participation. While his mind repeatedly returned to the crystal concealed within his robes and the mysterious Tao's claims about extradimensional entities targeting universal boundaries. When formal proceedings finally adjourned for the day, he wasted no time in extracting himself from further divine socializing, citing preparatory work for his investigative council leadership role. With Whis occupied in obligatory angel consultations, Goku and Caulifla retreated to the private chambers allocated to Universe 7's representatives within the Nexus. Finally, Caulifla groaned, collapsing dramatically onto an RNATE divan once the privacy shields activated. If I had to listen to one more argument about proper destruction protocols for gas giants, I was going to start breaking divine etiquette in very creative ways. At least you could sit in the observation gallery, Goku replied, removing his formal outer robe with evident relief. Try sitting on that throne for 8 straight hours while every god existence critiques your first 6 months on the job. Poor destroyer god, she mocked without heat. Such terrible hardship, having unlimited cosmic power and universal authority. And unlimited cosmic meetings. Goku extracted Tao's crystal from his discarded robe, studying its multifaceted surface with cautious curiosity. Now, how exactly do we access whatever's stored in this thing? The crystal gleamed with subtle inner light, not reflecting ambient illumination but generating its own luminescence from within. Its structure appeared deceptively simple at first glance, but closer exam. I-Nation revealed fractal complexities that seemed to shift and reconfigure even as they observed it. Probably some kind of energy activation, Caulifla suggested, sitting up to examine the object more closely. Most advanced data storage responds to specific user resonance. Goku raised an eyebrow. Since when are you an expert on extradimensional tech? Since Vados decided my cultural exchange should include advanced universal knowledge alongside combat training. Caulifla extended her hand. Let me try something. Taking the crystal, she closed her eyes in concentration, channeling a T-N stream of her distinctive energy into its structure. The crystal's illumination flickered briefly but remained unchanged, its secret still locked within. Worth a shot, she conceded, returning it to Goku. Maybe it needs destroyer energy specifically. Goku nodded, cupping the crystal between his palms and focusing. Unlike Caulifla's approach, he didn't immediately channel energy into the object but instead attenuated his perception to its unique frequency, the same intuitive technique that had allowed him to sense the distinctive pattern of the dimensional breaches. The crystal responded instantly, its inner light shifting from subtle illumination to brilliant radiance. The light expanded outward, resolving into a 3-dimensional projection that filled the chamber with stellar cartography, a detailed map of spaces between and beyond conventional universal boundaries. Whoa, Caulifla breathed, rising to her feet as the projection surrounded them. That's definitely not standard cosmic mapping. The display showed not only the familiar 12 universes but the spaces between them, dimensional pockets, void zones, and transitional realms that existed outside conventional cosmography. Most intriguing were regions beyond the known multiverse entirely, spaces marked with unfamiliar symbols and energy signatures unlike anything in standard divine records. Look, Goku indicated a series of pulsing points along the boundaries of universes 6, 7, and 11. These must be the breach locations. The points formed a pattern that had been invisible when viewed from within individual universal domains, not random deterioration but a precise geometric configuration centered on a specific coordinate where the boundaries between all 3 universes converged at their thinnest point. It's not multiple random breaches, Caulifla realized. It's a systematic weakening pattern, like they're creating multiple small holes to destabilize a larger section. Exactly like that, Goku confirmed, his expression growing serious as the strategic implication became clear. They're not trying to create individual entry points, they're attempting to collapse the entire boundary junction. The projection shifted, responding to their realization by zooming in on the central convergence point. Here, the model showed detailed energy analyses of the weakening dimensional fabric, data far more comprehensive than what had been presented at the summit. This is way beyond what the angels reported, Khalifah noted, studying the projections with growing concern. According to this, the boundary junction is already 30% compromised. At current degradation rates, complete collapse within 14 days, Goku finished, the projection confirming his calculation with precise mathematical models. Why wouldn't the angels have this information? They're supposed to monitor universal boundaries as part of their fundamental duties. Maybe they can't see it the same way, Khalifah suggested. Or maybe they're not sharing everything they know. The projection shifted again, now highlighting a different region, a dimensional pocket existing in the void space between universes 7 and 9. Marked with a distinctive energy signature that pulsed with suspended animation patterns. The coordinates Tawa mentioned, Goku murmured. Where Zangya supposedly exists between life and death. The display expanded to show detailed information about this pocket dimension, artificially created centuries ago as a containment zone for beings considered too dangerous to exist within conventional universal space but too valuable to destroy completely. According to the data, it currently held 17 entities in suspended animation, including the former Galaxy soldier identified as Zangya. This is starting to make more sense, Khalifah said, studying the information. Bojack and his crew were interdimensional threats, beings that could navigate between universal boundaries. They weren't just space pirates. They were something more dangerous. Which explains why someone trying to breach universal boundaries might want Zangya's abilities, Goku concluded. And why Tawa thinks she could help us understand what we're facing. Assuming Tawa is actually on our side and not manipulating us for her own purposes. Fair point. Goku studied the projection thoughtfully. But either way, this information is too important to ignore. The boundary collapse is happening faster than anyone at the summit realizes, or admits. So what's our play? Khalifah asked, automatically falling into the strategic partnership they'd developed over months of working together. Take this to the Grand Minister. Try to convince Whis it's legitimate. We need more concrete evidence before involving the divine hierarchy. Goku decided after a moment's consideration. If Tao is right about interests within the cosmic bureaucracy, bringing this forward prematurely might alert whoever's behind the breaches. So we investigate independently. Khalifah's eyes gleamed with anticipation of action after 2 days of diplomatic tedium. Starting with this containment dimension and the supposedly not quite dead space pirate. It's risky, Goku cautioned. Entering unregistered dimensional pockets without official sanction violates about a dozen cosmic protocols. Since when do you care about cosmic protocols? Since breaking them might give certain gods the excuse they've been looking for to question my fitness as destroyer. Khalifah considered this, then shrugged. Fair enough. So we go after the summit concludes tomorrow. Make it official investigative council business. You're the appointed leader, after all. That could work, Goku agreed. Though we'll need to bring at least token representation from the other universes involved to maintain appearances. Margarita would be the logical choice from Universe 11, Khalifah suggested, surprising Goku with her political assessment. She's already curious about your methods. And having an angel's authority would legitimize the expedition. Good thinking. And from Universe 10, their strategic planning continued, the crystals projectee. On providing increasingly detailed information about both the dimensional breaches and the containment pocket as they interacted with it. So absorbed were they in this analysis that neither immediately. Y noticed when the chamber's privacy shield rippled slightly, a subtle disturbance indicating unauthorized surveillance from beyond. The summit's final day brought Goku's formal presentation on Universe E7's status, a carefully prepared address that Whis had helped craft to balance honesty about his unorthodox methods with reassurance that cosmic balance remained his primary concern. To his relief, he assembled pantheons received it with more curiosity than condemnation, though certain traditionalists among the destroyers made their disapproval evident through pointed questions afterward. More significant was the Investigative Council's first official meeting. Representatives from the 4 designated universes gathering to establish protocols for addressing the dimensional breaches. As appointed coordinator, Goku found himself in the unexpected position of directing divine beings with millennia more experience in cosmic governance. The breach pattern suggests coordinated activity rather than natural deterioration, he explained, presenting the official findings while carefully avoiding reference to Tao's more detailed information. We propose a direct investigation of the central convergence point where universes 6, 7, and 11 meet at their thinnest boundary. A reasonable approach, Rumsshi of Universe 10 agreed, his massive form somehow conveying both physical power and intellectual consideration. Though such investigation carries inherent risks of further destabilizing the affected boundaries. Which is why we've developed a specialized containment protocol, Goku continued, nodding to Whis, who projected a modified version of the approach they'd formulated based on Tao's data, stripped of any elements that might reveal their unofficial information source. By creating a resonant field precisely calibrated to the breach frequencies, we can examine the deterioration pattern without exacerbating it. Margarita studied the proposed methodology with evident interest. Most innovative. This resonance approach bears similarities to certain theoretical models from Universe 11's archives, though with novel applications I don't recognize. Universe 7 has been experimenting with alternative applications of destruction energy, Whis explained smoothly, covering for the unexplained sophistication of their proposal. Lord Goku's unique perspective has proven quite fertile for methodological innovation. The technical discussion continued, each representative contributing expertise while Goku carefully guided them toward his predetermined objective, approval for a preliminary expedition including specific personnel from each universe. For initial assessment, we recommend a focused team rather than full divine contingent, he suggested as they neared conclusion. Angel representatives for technical expertise, destroyer representatives for containment capacity if necessary, and specialized support personnel for data collection. Logical, Champa acknowledged reluctantly, his initial skepticism seemingly tempered by the methodical presentation. Universe 6 offers Vados for technical oversight. I would attend personally, but pressing matters require my attention elsewhere. His expression suggested these pressing matters likely involved culinary exploration rather than cosmic necessity, but none challenged his transparent excuse. Universe 11 provides Margarita, Belmont stated with formal precision. Her analytical capabilities regarding dimensional integrity remain unmatched among Angel siblings. For Universe 10, I shall attend personally, Rumsshi declared, surprising the others with his direct involvement. These breaches occur near our dimensional territory, and I wish to observe firsthand. And Universe 7 will provide myself, Lord Goku, and our cultural exchange representative Caulifla, whose experience with interdimensional phenomena during the Tournament of Power offers relevant perspective, Whis concluded, formalizing the Act team composition Goku had strategized for. With expedition parameters established and divine approval secured, the council adjourned, their first official action scheduled for implementation immediately following the summit's conclusion. As the representatives departed, Margarita lingered, approaching Goku with her customary perfect posture and unreadable expression. A most comprehensive proposal, Lord Goku, she observed. Particularly impressive given your relative inexperience with dimensional mechanics. I've been studying, Goku replied with deliberate casualness. The position comes with a lot of required reading. Indeed, her lavender eyes studied him with analytical precision. Though some methodologies in your proposal reflect perspectives not typically found in standard destroyer archives. One might almost suspect external consultation. Goku maintained his composure, meeting her gaze directly. I consider multiple perspectives before making decisions. It's part of my approach to the position. An approach increasingly difficult to categorize within traditional cosmic frameworks. Something almost like approval flickered briefly across her features. Most intriguing. I look forward to observing your methods directly during our expedition. As she glided away with characteristic angel grace, Goku released a carefully controlled breath. Margarita had clearly detected anomalies in their proposal that suggested information sources beyond official channels, yet rather than reporting this deviation, she appeared to find it interesting enough to investigate personally. Whether that represented potential alliance or more sophisticated opposition remained to be seen. The dimensional expedition assembled at the designated coordinates 12 hours after the summit's conclusion, a void space equidistant from the boundaries of universes 6, 7, and 11, where normal spatial laws grew tenuous and reality itself seemed to thin like worn fabric. Here, the angel's staffs served as anchors, creating a stable bubble of conventional physics within the fluctuating dimensional currents. The convergence point lies approximately 3 metadimensional units ahead, Vados reported. Her staff projecting navigational coordinates into the void. Boundary integrity diminishes progressively as we approach. Goku, now dressed in his modified destroyer attire optimized for potential combat rather than formal appearance, studied the dimensional readings with focused attention. The breach patterns matched those shown in Tao's crystal precisely, further confirmation that her information, whatever its source, had been accurate. We'll proceed with phased approach, he decided, glancing to the assembled team for confirmation. Angels establish perimeter stability, Destro. Yours maintain containment field if energetic discharge occurs. Rumsshi nodded approvingly. Prudent methodology. You've prepared thoroughly, Lord Goku. Experience suggests preparation matters, he replied with a slight smile, remembering countless battles where rushing in without strategy had led to unnecessary complications. 6 months as destroyer had taught him that cosmic-level threats Riku. I read cosmic-level planning, a lesson his younger self might have benefited from learning earlier. They advanced carefully through the dimensional void, each movement calculated to minimize disruption to the already fragile boundaries. As they neared the convergence point, the nature of the breaches became visually apparent, not simply tears in reality but systematic degradation along specific energy frequencies. Exactly as Taoa had described. This confirms deliberate manipulation, Margarita observed, her staff analyzing the deterioration pattern. These frequency modulations cannot occur naturally. They require specialized technological or metaphysical intervention. But who possesses such capabilities? Rumsshi wondered aloud. Even among divine entities, boundary manipulation at this precise level exceeds conventional methodology. Goku exchanged a brief glance with Caulifla, who had maintained uncharacteristic silence throughout the expedition, part of their predetermined strategy to avoid revealing their additional knowledge prematurely. What matters now is containment, he redirected, focusing on immediate priorities. Can we stabilize the existing breaches while investigating their source? Temporarily, Vados confirmed, already coordinating with her angel siblings to establish resonant fields around the most severely compromised areas. Though permanent resolution requires identifying and neutralizing the source of the degradation. As the angels implemented containment protocols, Goku extended his destroyer senses beyond conventional perception, the unique awareness that had developed during his tenure, allowing him to perceive energetic patterns beyond normal detection thresholds. What he found confirmed his suspicions. The breaches weren't merely pathways for potential invasion but components in a more complex metaphysical mechanism, almost like a lock being systematically picked. There's something else, he reported, drawing the others' attention. These breaches aren't random entry attempts, they're creating a specific harmonic pattern. Together, they're generating a resonance frequency that affects something at the center of the convergence. Margarita immediately adjusted her analysis, her expression showing rare surprise as her instruments confirmed his intuitive assessment. Extraordinary. There appears to be a sealed dimensional pocket at the precise convergence center, one not recorded in any official cosmography. A hidden pocket dimension. Rumshi's elephant features conveyed profound concern. Created by whom? And containing what? Quote, that's what someone's trying to find out, Caulifla interjected, her tactical mind connecting the pieces. They're not trying to break into our universes, they're trying to break into whatever's sealed in that pocket. This realization shifted the expedition's focus dramatically. While the angels maintained boundary stability, Goku and Rumsshi approached the convergence center directly, their destroyer energies providing protection against the increasingly unstable dimensional forces. At the precise center, they encountered what appeared to be a perfect sphere of compressed reality, a dimensional construct of such density and complexity that it existed simultaneously in all 3 surrounding universes while remaining distinct from each. Its surface bore markings in a script so ancient that even Rumsshi, with millions of years of cosmic experience, could not identify it. This predates current universal iteration, the elephant deity concluded after careful examination. Perhaps even Atesh Zeno's current administrative structure. Can we determine what's inside without disrupting the seal? Goku asked, studying the construct with cautious fascination. Conventional methods would be insufficient, Margarita replied, joining them at the center while her staff continued autonomously maintaining boundary stability. However, your particular approach to destruction energy might offer an alternative. What do you mean? Your technique for planetary transformation demonstrated ability to selectively affect specific energy patterns while preserving others, she explained. A similar approach, applied with sufficient precision, might reveal the pocket's contents without compromising its integrity. Goku considered this suggestion carefully. The technique Margarita referenced had been intuitive rather than formally developed, a natural extension of his understanding of destruction energy's fundamental nature. Applying it to an ancient dimensional seal carried significant risks, yet potentially offered insights unavailable through conventional methods. I'll try, he decided, looking to Rumsshi for senior destroyer approval. But I'll need support from all three angels to contain any unintended effects. Rumsshi nodded gravely. Proceed with caution, Lord Goku. Some seals exist for reasons beyond our current understanding. With the angels positioned in triangular foe, Armation around the convergence point and Rumsshi providing secondary containment, Goku approached the dimensional seal directly. Unlike his usual destruction techniques that involved external energy projection, this required subtle manipulation of the boundary between existence and non-existence, revealing what lay within by temporarily shifting its quantum state without actually breaking the seal itself. He placed both hands directly on the sealed sphere, closing his eyes to focus completely on the energy patterns flowing through and around the ancient construct. The seal's complexity exceeded anything he'd previously encountered. Layers upon layers of protection, each operating on different metaphysical principles, some utilizing energetic frameworks that no longer existed in current universal physics. Rather than attempting to comprehend the entire system, Goku focused on finding harmonics, resonant frequencies that flowed through multiple protective layers. When he identified a pattern that seemed to connect outer and inner states, he carefully introduced his own energy, not to disrupt but to temporarily align with the seal's existing flow, becoming effectively transparent to its protective mechanisms. For a breathless moment, nothing happened. Then, with sudden clarity, Goku's consciousness expanded beyond the physical barrier, perceiving what lay within while maintaining the seal's integrity. What he found left him momentarily speechless. It's a weapon, he finally reported, maintaining delicate connection with the seal. Something designed to rewrite fundamental cosmic law, to change the basic operational rules of reality itself. Impossible, Rumsshi declared, though with less certainty than his words suggested. No technology or divine artifact could alter fundamental cosmic constants. Not technology as we understand it, Goku clarified, still processing the information flowing through his connection. More like crystallized intent. Pure conceptual framework given quasi-physical form. Quote, from before the current iteration, Margarita suggested, her analytical mind quickly processing implications. From when reality operated under different organizational principles, Goku carefully withdrew his perception, breaking connection with the sealed sphere while ensuring its integrity remained intact. As his awareness returned fully to conventional space, the significance of their discovery settled upon him with profound weight. Someone's trying to access a reality-altering artifact from before the current multiverse was established, he summarized for the assembled team. And they're using the dimensional breaches to systematically unlock its containment. The cosmic implications are concerning, Vados noted with typical angel understatement. Such an artifact, if deployed, could potentially override Zeno's established universal parameters. Which explains why it was sealed at a convergence point between three universes, Khalifla added. Her tactical assessment cutting to the core issue. Maximum security, distributed authority, no single universal domain could access it independently. We must inform the Grand Minister immediately, Rumsshi declared, his initially skeptical attitude toward the expedition now completely reversed by the gravity of their discovery. This transcends normal cosmic governance protocols. Agreed, Goku nodded, but we should also accelerate our investigation into who's creating these breaches. Knowing what they're after only makes identifying them more urgent. The resonance pattern might provide identification clues, Margarita suggested. Each metaphysical methodology leaves distinctive energy signatures, like fingerprints on the dimensional fabric. As the angels began collecting comprehensive data on the breach patterns, Goku drew Caulifla slightly aside, keeping his voice low despite the unlikelihood of being overheard amid the dimensional interference. "This changes our plans," he murmured. "We need to move on the containment dimension immediately, before the official response locks everything down." Caulifla nodded subtly. "Tonight, while everyone's reporting to their respective divine hierarchies." "Exactly. Whatever Zangya knows about interdimensional navigation might be crucial now that we understand what's really at stake." Their private exchange was interrupted by a sudden fluctuation in the dimensional fabric surrounding them, energy patterns shifting dramatically as though responding to external stimulus. All three angels immediately redirected their focus to boundary stability, their staffs glowing with intensified effort. "Something's actively probing the containment sphere," Vados reported, her typically calm demeanor showing rare urgency. "Resonance. Patterns matching the breach signatures but significantly amplified. They know we're here," Goku realized. Our investigation triggered some kind of alert system. As if confirming his assessment, dimensional void around them rippled with sudden energy discharge, not random fluctuation but targeted disruption aimed at their perimeter shields. The angels' combined power maintained their protective bubble, but the precision of the attack suggested sophisticated opposition with specific knowledge of divine defensive protocols. "We need to withdraw," Rumshi declared, his destroyer energy flaring protectively. "Continued presence risks accelerating whatever process we've interrupted." "Agreed," Goku concurred, already moving to coordinate their retreat. Angels establish withdrawal corridor. Destroyers maintain rear guard. They began strategic withdrawal, maintaining defensive formation as the dimensional attacks intensified around them, probing for weaknesses with increasingly sophisticated energy patterns. Most concerning was how these patterns adapted to their defensive responses, suggesting an intelligence directing the assault rather than automated security measures. As they neared the boundary exit point, a final, concentrated energy surge targeted their perimeter, not to breach their defenses but to deliver a message. For a brief moment, symbols appeared in the void before. Read them, characters from the same ancient script that had marked the containment sphere, but arranged in a pattern that conveyed clear warning despite its linguistic indecipherability. Then, as suddenly as the assault had begun, the dimensional energies subsided, allowing their withdrawal to complete without further interference. "Well," Caulifla remarked as they re-established position in conventional space, "that was definitely someone telling us to mind our own business. More concerning is how they knew precisely where and when to find us," Margarita observed, her analytical mind already processing the strategic implications. "Our expedition was decided upon less than 24 hours ago, through official channels with restricted access." The unspoken conclusion hung in the air. Somio, nay with access to divine administrative information, was either directly involved or compromised by whatever forces sought the contained artifact. The circle of potential suspects included entities at the highest levels of cosmic governance, a profoundly disturbing realization for all present. "We proceed with official reporting as planned," Goku decided after a moment's consideration. "But we exert eyes increased discretion regarding operational details moving forward." Rumshi nodded grimly. "Agreed. Until we identify the security compromise, all investigative actions should operate on need-to-now basis, even within divine hierarchies." As the expedition prepared their official findings for presentation to their respective universal authorities, Goku found his resolve hardening regarding their unofficial follow-up mission. Whatever forces sought the reality-altering artifact clearly held significant influence, potentially even within divine ranks. Conventional approaches might not be sufficient against opponents with such access and resources. They needed unexpected perspectives, unconventional allies, and methods outside standard divine protocols. They needed Zangya. The containment dimension existed in a liminal space beyond normal universal boundaries, not fully in any single domain but not entirely outside them either. Unlike the convergence point they'd investigated earlier, his pocket had been deliberately constructed within conventional cosmic parameters, though hidden from casual observation through sophisticated metaphysical camouflage. Goku and Caulifla approached cautiously, having slipped away from the nexus during the post-expedition chaos of multiple divine reports and emergency consultations. With the cosmic authorities focused on the sealed artifact, security around lesser dimensional anomalies had temporarily relaxed, creating the narrow window of opportunity they now exploited. Coordinates match exactly, Khalifla confirmed, consulting the data crystal they'd carefully studied. Definitely the same containment pocket Tau identified. The dimensional entrance resembled a perfect sphere of distorted space, light bending around its perimeter in patterns that discouraged direct observation. Without Tau's precise navigational data, they would have likely passed right by it without noticing its existence. Security measures, Goku asked, extending his destroyer senses to assess potential defenses. Minimal active systems, Khalifla reported after running specialized scans using equipment from Universe 6's Advanced Dimensional Research. Mainly designed for containment rather than external defense. Whoever built this wasn't expecting visitors, or assumed that finding it would be defense enough. Goku studied the entrance thoughtfully. The energy signature feels familiar somehow, not divine exactly, but not entirely different either. According to Tau's data, this pocket was created by something called the Galactic Patrol Special Division, apparently some secret branch that handled threats beyond normal universal jurisdiction. That explains the quasi-divine elements, Goku nodded. The Galactic Patrol had limited access to Ka-I technology for certain high-security operations. I encountered some of it during the Moro incident years ago. With cautious precision, they established a stable entry corridor, Goku's destroyer Gy providing the authority necessary to interface with the pocket's access protocols while Khalifla's technical expertise guided their approach. Unlike the brute force methods that might have triggered additional security measures, their careful navigation allowed them to slip into the containment dimension with minimal disruption to its operational parameters. Inside, they found a space larger and its external appearance suggested a self-contained reality approximately the size of a small moon, though configured as a series of suspended animation chambers arranged in concentric circles. Each chamber held a single occupant preserved in temporal stasis, their life functions neither progressing nor terminating but suspended in perfect equilibrium between existence and non-existence. 17 occupants, Khalifla counted, consulting her scanner. Various species, all classified as extreme threat level according to these security markers. Goku moved deliberately through the chamber array, studying each suspended figure with careful attention. Most were unfamiliar, beings from cosmic epochs or universal regions outside his experience, but the distinctive appearance of the galaxy Soldi was immediately recognizable when they reached the inner circle of containment units. That's her, he confirmed, stopping before a chamber containing a female figure with pale blue skin and flame-red hair. Unlike the other occupants, who appeared fully unconscious, Zhengya's expression suggested some level of awareness, her features frozen in what might have been anger or defiance at the moment of her containment. Life signs are minimal but present, Khalifla reported, scanning the chamber's operational parameters. She's not dead, just paused. These readings suggest her consciousness might be partially active despite physical suspension. Can we safely extract her? Goku asked, studying the complex energy fields maintaining the stasis effect. Not without proper transition protocols. Direct extraction would cause catastrophic cellular breakdown after this long in suspended animation. Khalifla frowned at the technical readouts. We need a controlled reanimation sequence, but T-hat requires authorization codes we don't have. Goku placed his hand directly on the chamber's exterior, closing his eyes to focus on the energy patterns flowing through the containment system. Unlike divine constructs, this technology operated on principles he could directly perceive, a sophisticated application of life force manipulation combined with temporal displacement fields. I think I can work with this, he murmured. Destruction energy gathering subtly around his fingers. Not by breaking the containment, but by selectively realigning its parameters. Is that safe? Khalifla asked skeptically. These systems were designed to hold beings considered too dangerous to exist in normal space. Maybe not completely safe, Goku acknowledged with characteristic honesty. But necessary given what we're facing. Whatever she did to end up here, Zhengya has knowledge we need, experience navigating between dimensions that might help us understand who's trying to access that artifact. With careful precision, he began introducing destruction energy into the containment field, not to disrupt its integrity but to selectively modify its operational parameters. Where conventional approaches would have simply deactivated the system, potentially causing the catastrophic breakdown Caulifla had warned about, Goku's technique involved temporarily assuming control of the containment mechanics through subtle energy manipulation. The chamber's status indicators fluctuated wildly as its systems recognized an authority input it wasn't programmed to process, destroyer energy operating within par. A meters designed for conventional cosmic enforcement. For several tense moments, the outcome remained uncertain as competing protocols attempted to reconcile the conflicting directives. Then, with surprising suddenness, the system stabilized, recognizing Goku's divine authority as a valid override to its original programming. The temporal stasis field began gradually recalibrating, initiating the controlled reanimation sequence that would safely transition its occupant back to normal existence. "It's working," Caulifla confirmed, monitoring the process with evident relief. Cellular reactivation proceeding at safe intervals. Consciousness returning at appropriate synchronization. As the reanimation progressed, the suspended figure within the chamber began showing signs of increased awareness, subtle shifts in expression. Minor muscle movements, gradually accelerating life signs. When the process reached approximately 80% completion, the chamber itself initiated final transition protocols. Its exterior becoming transparent as physical barriers dematerialized. Zhangya's eyes opened, brilliant turquoise irises immediately focusing with surprising clarity despite centuries of suspended animation. Her expression shifted from momentary confusion to sharp assessment as she took in her surroundings and the two figures before her. "Interesting," she said, her voice slightly rasped. Why from disuse but still carrying distinctive melodic undertones characteristic of her species. "Not the extraction team I expected." Without waiting for response, she attempted to sit up, a movement our reactivating body wasn't quite prepared for. Something went wrong with this response, please try again. Build follow-up. ___. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.